legislation on all our medication, and maybe all we can do is put her on a pain pill. Oh, me. Hey, Congress, you vote Obamacare. We'll vote you out of there. We the people have awakened to your tricks. You vote to let this pass. You'll be out on your... 'Cause we the people have awakened. And to put it in words you might understand, if you had the common sense that God gave a billy goat, you'd no doubt notice that your constituents, the electorate, that's us voters, are onto your pork barrel special interest tax and spend scam. Or to put it more succinctly, we've heard from Hannity, Beck, and Limbaugh what you got in mind for Grandma. And we found this O'Reilly fella on Fox. We're kind of like Joe the plumber, and when we crunch the numbers, it all adds up to voting you out at the ballot box. You vote Obamacare, we're gonna vote you out of there. We the people have awakened to your tricks. You vote to let this pass, you're gonna be out on your... 'Cause we the people have awakened. And to put it mildly, we're harboring feelings of extreme alienation due to copious amounts of horse manure that have been shoveled out of the White House and the Capitol building, and we sense that we are being royally defecated upon. Yeah, we're getting the impression that you think we are not relevant to these proceedings and dismissing our input into the situation. And please tell Nancy Pelosi we're gonna do the hokey pokey. Put the right ones in, pull the left ones out. You vote Obamacare, we're gonna vote you out of there. We the people have awakened to your tricks. You vote to let this pass, you're gonna be out on your... Well, we the people have awakened. And you might want to start looking for another line of work. How about the medical profession? Yeah, they're going to need everybody they can get that'll put up with the red tape and the pay cut. Hey, why don't you kill every last job, tax every last penny, and infringe on every last God-given right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness? Because let me tell you, ain't nobody happy with you. We the people.
Being able to have something to always protect myself with this Byrna allows me to have that.
Out on the open road where the stars shine bright, Donald stands tall in the morning light. Shots rang out, but he's still here today. With Jesus by his side, he won't lose his way. They tried to bring him down, but he's stronger than before, with a heart of steel and a faith that soars. With Jesus in the USA, we keep on riding every day. Through the storms and the trials, we won't lose our way. They can try to take him down, but he won't be swayed. He's fighting for our freedom, come what may. The eagle flies high in the red, white, and blue. Trump keeps fighting for me and you. Sometimes they tried, but he stood his ground. With the Lord's own hand, he's still around. Through the fire and the pain, he's standing tall. With a love for this land that won't ever fall. With Jesus and the USA, we keep on riding every day. Through the storms and the trials, we won't lose our way. They can our freedom, come what may. So here's to the fight for the red, white, and blue. We're down standing tall, and Jesus pulling through. For the land of the free, we'll hold tight to our dreams. With faith in our hearts, we ride with the King. They're talking about taking our rights away in the hard land where the Eagles play. You can't replace a man with a worn out hat, or the steel in his hands, or the boot on his mat. I see the sweat on fields in the morning light, and I'd rather fight than lose that sight. Silver screen costume men with their tails, but I've lived the dirt roads and the hard-packed trails. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I'll stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong.
Welcome, my friends. This is the show of Macil Duncan here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we appreciate all of you that like and share the show. We're now in 37 states, Mexico and Canada, thanks to USA Heartbeat Radio and Street Level America Radio. And we appreciate also Destiny Life Media here in Chattanooga, 96.9 FM, the SGM Radio in Alabama, the New Jersey Freedom Network, the Tennessee Conservative Network, God in Politics Network, and the Macil Duncan Radio.com. If you go to MacilDuncanRadio.com, it'll take you to my X, my Rumble. I've got multiple Facebook accounts, Instagram, etc., and also Revolver Media. We appreciate Joshua Cummings in Indiana for promoting and helping with the show. God blessing in a big way, as we've seen a lot of damage here with the floods. I shared that with you yesterday, and I have spoken with family that's actually living in the damaged flood zone. And my brother-in-law, Tim, who's one of those quiet guys, doesn't like to be on camera or microphone, but he made the news. He's been going down and helping clean out people's houses that were destroyed. He's just that kind of guy. You know those kind of guys that if your mule's in a ditch, Tim's the kind of guy you call. He'll help you get your mule out of a ditch. He's just a good guy, and he's been helping his neighbors. Well, he got picked up on the news. So congratulations, Tim. Pastor salute to you, pal. Long overdue. He's a good man of God, good servant. Well, as lots going on in the news, I am amazed that Nike has ignored Caitlin Clark. There has been a lot of pushback since they've signed this superstar from college. They did all these commercials as she was entering her pro career, but they've not done one commercial since she's been a pro. And she just won Rookie of the Year. And there's people concerned, why haven't they done a commercial to celebrate her? But yet they've gone to Taurasi and other people. She's dominated. So you've got to wonder the politics in Nike. And there's one theory that Nike signed, because Nike's very liberal. Nike signed and tied up Caitlin Clark so that they could silence any tennis deal, because she was offered an Under Armour deal with Steph Curry that would have been worth twice what she was offered by Nike to have a solo. Somebody gave her some bad advice, or somebody deceived her. We don't know which, but truth comes out in the end. This is some good news. Blaze Media reports NBA player A.J. Griffin is exiting a $17 million contract. And you're saying, what in the world? An NBA player that's leaving $17 million on the table. He says, no, I don't want it. Something of greater value than $17 million. You know what that is? He says, I've got a calling for Christ. That's right. He's a Christian, and you can go to Blaze Media and read the whole story. But Griffin was in the third year of his rookie contract, making an average $4.276 million per year. Third-year NBA player A.J. Griffin is giving up professional basketball to serve in full-time gospel ministry. We'll talk about that later in the show, but how about that? It's nice to hear those good stories every so often. Would you not agree? The other thing is, USA Today says which products would be affected most by this lengthy port strike. And alcohol, bananas, seafood, to name a few, plus the auto industry. This strike that started at midnight last night is it's on like Donkey Kong. And I've got a clip here I'll play for you later with the guy that's over the union. And he pretty much says, he kind of lays out what will happen. And he says this all is avoidable if they'll just come to the table. But the union workers said they want a face-to-face meeting, and they have some demands, higher salaries, benefits and stuff. But the one thing that evidently is on the line is they say they want job security over automated AI robots that have been designed to take their place. Now the AI aren't ready yet. So here's the rub. Biden could do it's called a TAF. He can make them go back to work for 90 days while they negotiate. The guy says if they do that, we'll go from saying making 20 loads a day down to 6. We'll just take our time. We'll do our job, but it'll be very slow paced. There'll be a lot of call-in sicks and stuff like that. So their production will be very limited. So the other thing is evidently there's talk that the robotic part, they may actually try replacing these workers in the next 3 to 6 weeks and give a shot at some of these workers. Now, I did not know this. Of all the ports and all the ships in dock, you know who right now is at the biggest country that has the most imports is China. Now, here's the thing you need to understand. If you remember, when Trump was president, he shut down the Costco ports over in California. That's spelled with a K. But the phonics made a lot of folks think, oh, Costco, like here in America. No, it's a different Costco. When they shut that port down because it was being accused of fentanyl and child sex trafficking imports. So Trump shut it down. So they brought their ports up through Georgia. That's where Kemp became good friends with China. Savvy? Remember? Wink, wink. Mr. Kemp then got a new thing of voting machines before the 2020 election. And they were Smartmatic and the other, I can't think of the other name at the moment. And all of a sudden, the 2020 election was very questionable, which is now being battled out even today in the courts. Have you noticed, though, the strike only impacts this side of the country, not the California, Oregon, all that coast? Is there a chance what they're going to try to do is shift? China would like to have their port reopened in California. Just a thought. Just a thought. Now they'd have to take those ships and they'll have to go all down into either Panama or go around and get to that other side. I don't know what you think about that. Anyway, just a thought, but we'll talk about that. What are the greatest products that will be affected by this boycott? Kamala's tiny Las Vegas rally includes weirdos, pro-Palestine protesters, and a guy wearing a Satan Respects Pronouns shirt. Evidently, she had a rally in Vegas, and it was so small, it was very embarrassing, and we'll talk about that. But she can't fill a room while Trump is filling stadiums, and yet they're saying she's winning. Have a problem with that anyway. Virginia teacher who makes kids criticize Israel is daughter of an imam. Okay, check that out. So here's a Virginia teacher who's teaching kids to criticize Israel and Yahweh, the God of Israel, and but she's the daughter of an imam, and so we'll talk about this, and this is at the Daily Wire if you want to read more. But in the public school system, people take their values and their beliefs into the school system. That's why a lot of back in the day, a lot of Christians were school teachers because they wanted to mold the minds of the children. Now, Christianity is almost banned in the schools, but everything else goes, and that's what's a shame. In Axios, we're finding the recent flooding leaves unimaginable destruction in 6 states as the death toll now is 140 plus that they can count, but there's still thousands of folks missing. And as I talked to a TBC missionary yesterday, he said they're having to leave dead bodies. When they find a dead person, they just have to leave it. He said we're so focused on survival and finding the living. He goes the death count is not accurate. He goes it'll be much higher. They're finding people trapped in their cars and other places. Some had climbed trees trying to get above, and they still didn't make it. So the death toll is going to be very high. But the other thing that's a lot of folks are alarmed is why is the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg not been deployed? When Hurricane Katrina hit, that unit was deployed within hours. It's now been days. What's going on? FEMA, where's FEMA? Where's the Marines? Where's Biden and Harris? Biden's been at the beach. The only leader that's been down in the mud, literally, and walking in the water was Trump. Go look. He's been bringing relief. He's putting his personal finances, bringing gas and food. And but hey, I know what Biden's doing. We're writing checks to the Ukraine. We're going to help other countries, but our people, too bad. I think the sentiment towards the Biden regime is getting a little bit heated right now as people are looking around saying, hey, wait a minute. We're giving billions to other countries and you're not even taking care of our own? Oh, the other thing that's come out is a friend of mine that's in the area said China's been buying up some of the property up there because it's full of lithium. And the city councils and the board there in these North Carolina towns voted out. They didn't want mining in their community. So I'm just saying it's awful coinky dinks that areas where high lithium is and where China has bought land now there's no one to vote against mining or against the Chinese coming in. Is that why FEMA and the Marines aren't there to help them? Do they want those folks to just leave their lands, what little's left? Because, see, if they abandon the land, the federal government can come in. They could do a federal crisis. There's a law they could and claim that a federal crisis for 2-3 years and then resell the land to the highest bidder, the land that the Chinese haven't bought yet. Keep an eye on it. There's a liberal right now saying, I'm going to try to prove him wrong. Please bring that on. Try. I love it when I get you guys to do your own research. That's what you need to do. Biden-Harris administration used FEMA disaster funding for illegal immigrants. Go to the Federalist and read this article. Biden and Harris have been using FEMA disaster funds for illegal immigrants. That's one reason FEMA hasn't possibly responded again to U.S. citizens who paid the freaking tax dollars for this. After giving $175 billion in aid to the Ukraine, Joe Biden tells Americans they need to donate to North Carolina food disaster. Did you know every business in the Ukraine gets a stimulus check still today? Seriously. Every small business in the Ukraine gets a stimulus check from America. You're my tax. It's going to Ukraine. But small businesses that have been wiped out by this flooding, that's still very mysterious by folks. There's an organization called HARP, H-A-R-R-P. H-A-R-R-P. You should do your own research. I've had several of you send me stuff. It's a weather modification that's done by the federal government. Before you roll your eyes and say, "Oh, that's just so," no, it's a fact, Jack. Again, prove me wrong. Get on your computer, do your own research. Don't use Google, use Brave, B-R-A-V search engine, or DuckDuckGo. Go to Brave, B-R-A-V-E, and type in HARP, H-A-R-R-P, weather modification. Then, once you've been baptized in truth, come talk to me. Lots going on. Lots going on. Elon Musk, RFK Jr. blasts John Kerry, who has complained First Amendment stands as a major roadblock. And that's right. It stands as a roadblock to these kind of tyrants. John Kerry, as you know, he was the liberal senator who ran for president, couldn't win, but was Secretary of State under Obama. You remember it was first Hillary Clinton, and then it was John Kerry. John Kerry married into the Heinz family. When you buy Heinz ketchup and those condiments, you're helping John Kerry and his liberal bastion of family. And his stepson is on the board of many energy companies in what country do we send the money to? The Ukraine. You've got it. So when you send money or buy Heinz products, you're not only enriching John Kerry and that family, but you're helping out the Ukraine, which if that's your thing, that's fine. But just so you know those things. But Elon Musk and RFK Jr. Are going to bat. Now, you need to understand, these are two former Democrats. Don't forget, Elon Musk, he's a citizen of South Africa. He's now an American citizen, and he's voted Democrat for his most of his adult life. He said, but for the first time, he's voting GOP, and you know why? He said he can't believe they're wanting to stifle primarily freedom of speech. That's one reason he bought Twitter. And when he bought Twitter, called it X, he fired 80% of the staff. 80% gone, and he's functioning on a much higher level than they ever did. Then you got RFK Jr., who's very liberal. Let me tell you, my friend, even though I love a lot of his policies about the food and the medical, you know, he's still he's pro-abortion, and he's still pro some things I don't agree with. But at this point in time, we've got to build bridges with those that we can get the most for what we can. But for these two liberal guys to turn on another liberal, John Kerry, that tells you there's a lot at stake in this upcoming election. You got to ask yourself, why all this happening right before the election? We're just weeks away. P. Diddy? The feds, they've known about this guy forever. Why are they just now arresting the guy, raiding his houses and taking the sex tapes? Some feel they are afraid if Donald Trump gets in, he could use it to expose, so they're actually destroying the evidence. Kind of like Epstein Island. You know, they went into Epstein Island and everybody thought, oh, finally we'll find out the list. No, they haven't still released the list. All you have is these suggestions and guessing. There's a few pictures that surfaced at Epstein Island, but they've still not released an official list from the government. And what did they do? They went into Epstein Island. If you remember, he had the shape, it looked like a temple with the golden top. They removed the golden top because inside the golden top was very high-tech cameras and stuff, so it's been taken off to be examined. But then they filled with cement all the rooms below. That got rid of all the DNA evidence. Why would they do that? It's one of the biggest covers-up of all time. So Ghislaine Maxwell, they put her on trial. And remember when she went on trial? Black Monday, right after Thanksgiving. Everyone thought, no one will pay attention. Because they just finished that kid with the gun. Remember the kid that defended himself? All cameras in the room and all the stuff. And that kid was finally found innocent. But then when Ghislaine Maxwell is on trial, no cameras allowed, no media, only a sketch artist. And the judge that was prosecuting only allowed 4 cases. There were 99 girls that came forward and saying, I had been molested by Ghislaine and Epstein, and they had plausible caught. They only picked 4, and they picked the 4 weakest cases of the 99. Did you know that? Okay. When you have that understanding, and then the judge that oversaw the trial was being flown to D.C. to be given a promotion. Go look it up. That judge no longer resides in that lower district. That judge is now in the 12th district of up in D.C., got a promotion. You see, there's a club, there's a country club, and it's these elites. It's a uniparty club. You know that. We'll talk about some of this. I breezed through the highlights. I'll get to that one later. Well, the thing I thought was very interesting, you may have heard this, there's a 43-foot naked statue of Donald Trump in Nevada. This is creepy. They built a statue of Donald Trump. It's 43 foot high, cost over $500,000, $500,000, and he's hanging naked with his private parts being exploited. So as you're driving into Las Vegas, you'll see it's in the county right before you get into Nevada, and it's filled with Democrats. So the commissioners had to approve this building permit and this structure. Very sad.
Hello and welcome back to Foresights TV with me, Esma. In a surprising and provocating display, a 43-foot tall statue of former President Donald Trump in the nude was erected in Las Vegas ahead of Vice President Kamala Harris's rally on September 29. The statue, titled Crooked and Obscene, has drawn significant attention for its boldness and is intended to spark conversation ahead of the upcoming November elections. Here's a special report from Foresights TV.
By the way, this is India. I thought this is what people in India are reporting on. A naked statue of Trump.
And towers over Interstate 15, a prominent route towards Utah. This latest installation recalls earlier nude depiction of Trump during his 2016 presidential campaign, but this version is notably larger and more exaggerated. Installed on Friday evening, the artwork has no specified removal date, suggesting it could remain in place to continue igniting discussions about the political landscape.
I don't want to hear anymore. If you go to look at it online, it's very disgusting. Don't let your kids see it because it does display the male manland area in a very gross way. Why would this be allowed? If this was Obama, if this was any other, they would go crazy. But they're and it's also portraying him as being hung by a crane. Not only are they having him naked, but they're implying they hung him naked. This is interesting. Now tonight there's going to be a debate between the vice presidential candidates between J.D. Vance and Tampon Tim. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Now you may have heard this weekend, Donald Trump went to the SEC game and got a rousing applause, and they chanted USA, USA like they normally do. And that was down in Alabama when they were playing Georgia. But when Tampon Tim goes to Michigan, he was getting booed. And when they booed him, guess what Tampon Tim did? He turned around and flipped off the fans, gave them the middle finger. Now, all I'm saying is I'm sure he don't want to be booed, but that should tell you something about character right there. Now you're saying, well, Trump has said some harsh words. He sure has. But so has Biden. So has a lot of. But have you ever seen any candidate ever flip off a crowd? Unless he was calling them number one. Interesting stuff, is it not? Very interesting. We about to go to a break here. I've got a couple of things to share with you that I thought was very interesting. And I want to remind you again that there is a whistleblower from the FBI. He told us some warnings, and I'm going to try to just skip ahead to the warnings. This is what he said. If I were warning America, see what you think. He basically says you need to vote, arm yourself, Second Amendment. You need to make a pact with your neighbors that you'll defend each other. Get some food, have a stock of 3 months of food. And he said, pray.
I personally have no confidence that the FBI will rein in its own conduct. I've been persecuted along with Garrett, Steve and Kyle, and countless other whistleblowers. It is my opinion that the Bureau used reprisal and fear to control the workforce. It has been a seemingly effective tactic. I personally believe that there are no current effective checks and balances against them conducting lawless action with any type of correction in a legitimate time frame. I welcome the work of the IG, but I think any type of lawless action, there's no legitimate time frame to rein them back in. Their ability to overclassify information can allow them to stonewall forever. To the American
The ability to stonewall. For instance, when there were charges and things about Hunter Biden, and the FBI kept slow walking all through Trump's administration, and actually some of this during the end of Obama's administration. They wanted to make sure the statutes of limitations had expired. So there were 3 counts against Biden. They successfully, the Department of Justice kept, oh, I forgot. Gee, I should have had a V8. And they just completely went in slow-mo. And by the time they got around to supposedly prosecuting, if you remember, they thought a sweetheart deal down in Florida. And the judge says, wait a minute, I don't know. I want to look into this. And you remember they were shocked. They thought they had a deal made. And that federal judge says, no, we're gonna re-examine this. And then that's when all hell broke loose, because they thought they had a deal made to slap Hunter's wrist because everything else had gone. Well, then all the things started coming back up, and the 51 agents of people of high level of security in our country signed a letter saying that the laptop was Russian disinformation. We find out now, no, it was not. It was actually Hunter's laptop. That was him having sex with hookers and underage women and some other people that we don't need to mention because we don't know, doing drugs. All that was him. Okay? And so then the gun charge, all the different things. So this guy is clear when he said he's an undercover FBI espionage agent, and he says there's no way to rein him in. He pretty much thinks the FBI is uncontrollable.
And people, you have a duty as a citizen to vote, and I strongly urge you to do so. It's how you participate in the American experience. I know people have doubts about election integrity, but you must vote. It is your claim. Stake your claim and don't forfeit it willingly. Have your voice heard. My other recommendations are in the natural order. First, vote. The second is the Second Amendment. Arm yourself and know how to defend yourself. Make 3 to 4 friends in your neighborhood and promise to come to each other's mutual aid in times of hardship. And during the Great Depression, people stocked up a pantry. So I think that's a good practice, especially in our economic times, and make sure you have 3 to 4 months of food. And as a person of faith, I'd say pray the rosary. Go to the First Friday devotions. That's for everybody, all my brothers and sisters of all faiths, and I know I'm Catholic. And read the gospel of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Now that's an FBI whistleblower basically saying the FBI is out of control. He said he doesn't see any way they're reined in. The only way to deal with the FBI at this point is to dissolve them. But to dissolve them would require Congress and Senate agreeing. They're not going to do that because the FBI, just like Epstein, Diddy, and Hugh Hefner, have all kind of files on these guys messing around and taking bribes. You got to wonder how many senators, how many congressmen literally are clean. Look how they flip-flop so quickly. It just makes you wonder. It just makes you wonder. Is there any of them up there? You know, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You ought to watch that movie again with James Stewart. When you send an innocent-minded person to D.C., and then they just get in the minutia of the political world, it's devastating to them. We're about to go to a break. I want to remind you about my book, Move Your Mountains. Learn the Journey of Faith. If you get my book, you can buy it at Amazon. You can get it at Books A Million, Barnes & Nobles, Thrifty, wherever you get your books. But it's Faith Works, and it's based on the Bible. And this is a little mustard seed. You can't see it possibly there, but a mustard seed is the tiniest seed that we can put in our hand, if you will. And the Bible tells us if we have the faith of a mustard seed, we can move mountains. And that's what my book's about, helping you get your faith back. And I've got a chapter on how to deal with anger. If you're dealing with anger, how to deal with discouragement, and how to handle people that try to help, to try to harm you, how to serve and overcome. Also talk about how churches go from their birthing to their decline and death, if not revitalized. Fixing solutions. So anyway, it's my book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith That Can Overcome, by Macil Duncan. I hope you enjoy it. I'll be back after these messages. Don't turn the dial.
My name's Doug Henshaw. I'm calling from northeast Tennessee, what they call the Tri-Cities area, Bristol, Kingsport, Johnson City. I live in a little town called Elizabethton, and I listen to the Macil Duncan show, number one, because he approaches everything with a biblical worldview in mind, and by saying that, I mean he really seeks and researches to try to find the truth about a matter, and the motivation of why people do what they do, and just seeks the truth. And his sources are very reliable sources that he depends upon, and he just gives us the world through the biblical lens of a biblical worldview. That's number one reason why I listen to the show. And I love America because of our founding and our freedoms that we share. We live in the greatest country in the world, and we need to really pray and fight for what we have, and to move back towards what makes us great as America, and that is our founding and what we believe in, a belief in God. And so I love the Patriot Pastor show, now the Macil Duncan show. I listen to it on a regular basis, and I pray for the show and pray for Brother Macil.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Hi, I'm Mickey Hart of the Grateful Dead. And we've traveled all over the world, from Amsterdam to the Great Pyramids of Egypt. But I can't think of anywhere more full of beauty, life, and music than our own national forest. I love the forest. But you know, all its beauty can be taken away from us through one careless act. A campfire unattended, a cigarette butt thrown out a car window, or a trash fire left alone. You see, one little fire can quickly become one big fire, a forest fire. And before you know it, the trees stop swaying, the flowers stop blooming, and the birds stop singing. So please, be careful in the forest. It belongs to all of us, and remember, only you can prevent forest fires.
A public service of this station, the Forest Service, USDA, your state foresters, the Ad Council,
and the Grateful Dead.
This is the sound of a brand new outdoor grill being hurled off a 20-story building. Now a stylish glass coffee table. An electric guitar. These are the things you could enjoy, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Visit EnergySavers.gov and get tips on how to save energy and money. Then do things like switch to Energy Star light bulbs or Energy Star appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. So this doesn't happen to the recliner you've had your eye on, or this to the treadmill on your wish list, or this to the shiny new bike your kid's been asking for. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Want to fight childhood asthma? Then fight it with a scrub brush and a hot soapy towel. Even in the neatest and tidiest homes, if there's so much as a crumb to eat or a drop to drink, household pests like bugs and mice will do all that they can to get it. Creepy crawlies like bugs and mice are unpleasant enough as it is, but they're more than just a nuisance for kids with asthma because they can actually trigger an asthma attack. So give them a whole lot of nothing. Sweep up crumbs, wipe down tables, scrub dishes before they pile up in the sink, and store leftovers in plastic bags or bowls. Don't leave them so much as one tidbit or nibble, and you can stop a childhood asthma attack before it starts. Discover other simple ways to prevent an asthma attack. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS or visit noattacks.org, because no child should feel like a fish out of water. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. EPA, the Ad Council, and this station.
Together, we can end the dramala. And the traumala. And go relax in our pajamas.
Did you catch that? This is Saturday Night Live making fun of Kamala. This is good.
Together, we can end the dramala. And the traumala. And go relax in our pajamas.
Interesting. Anyway, so when they make fun of you, sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. We're not sure, but I'll tell you what I was interested in is the Caitlin Clark effect. The kid, she went in, and made pretty much a lot of a noise coming out of college. She broke the scoring record, not just for girls, but for men. When she broke the men and the women's scoring record, plus she set a new record in assists. Wow, the WA, she went number one. And when she went number one, it was the largest WA event at that time. Watch the draft. The night of the draft, more Indiana Fever jerseys were sold in that night than the whole Dallas Cowboys. Interesting enough, she gotten a lot of attention.
Used 3 words to describe Caitlin Clark after WNBA award. Caitlin Clark's WNBA Rookie of the Year win sparked a ton of fan and player reactions. One of the many people that took to social media to congratulate the star was Indiana Fever forward Aaliyah Boston. Boston reposted a picture from Bleacher Report that said, "Was there ever a doubt?" She reacted to Bleacher Report's post saying, "What a star," while adding 2 emojis with the star eyes.
Now, Aaliyah Boston was the Rookie of the Year the previous year. So the Indiana Fever has the first draft 2 years in a row because they were the worst team. So they got Aaliyah Boston last year. They got Caitlin Clark this year. Now they made the playoffs. Now, I know they're not in the playoffs, but they went from a terrible record to a competing record. And what's funny is Nike, who signed Caitlin Clark to a $28 million Nike deal, did all these commercials prior to her entering the pros, but hasn't done one since she's been a pro.
Major backlash for controversial Caitlin Clark decision. $134 billion company hasn't promoted the Iowa alum since she turned pro. Indiana Fever rookie phenom Caitlin Clark is arguably the biggest star in professional sports right now. She's broken records for WNBA attendance, television ratings, and merchandise sales, and one would think her biggest sponsor would want to capitalize on her rising star power. But Nike, which signed Clark to an 8-year, $28 million endorsement deal, has done next to nothing to promote the WNBA Rookie of the Year since adding her to its impressive all-star roster.
Now, if you've watched the movie Nike, and it's got Matt Damon and his pal, Ben Affleck. Good movie, little language, but good movie. But it tells the true story of how Michael Jordan's mother negotiated and changed negotiation for players. Michael Jordan came into the league, and he did not want to go with Nike. He wanted to go with Converse, which they had done several commercials, but they got all the best players. They had Dr. J, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and no one had ever had their own premier shoe or commercial just for the single player. Well, Michael Jordan, and they were gambling that he would be great. And go watch the movie Nike, and they gambled it all on Michael Jordan, and it paid off. Well, now Nike has picked the best phenom female athlete in quite some time, and they've been silent. Why? Because is it politics? Well, Nike is located in Oregon. Oregon is probably one of the bastions of liberalism all across the country, if not the world. Did they tie up Caitlin with a desire, intentional, to not promote her? Because now she probably had to sign a non-compete clause, meaning, she couldn't compete for 8 years. And after 8 years, she'll be out of her prime. And if she signs another shoe deal by then, it's going to be interesting. We'll see what's happening. But a lot of folks are thinking that Caitlin Clark was duped. Possibly. Maybe she was. We're not sure. But this is another report on Clark. See what you think.
Adidas Global Ambassador is giving major props to Caitlin Clark on Twitter, and the internet has gone wild. But where's Nike in all of this? Let's dive in, because this one's a bit shocking. So Nike is back in the headlines, but not for the best reasons. For those who don't know, Nike signed Caitlin Clark back in April with a huge $28 million deal. It was all over the news, a record-breaking deal for a female athlete. But now, with Caitlin winning WNBA Rookie of the Year, Nike has been strangely silent. No shout-out, no promotion, nothing. The only post Nike made about Caitlin was way back in April, saying the end of the story is just the beginning of the legend, alongside a picture of her. Since then, crickets.
Interesting. Well, somebody put out a parody song, and one of my listeners sent this to me, and it's called Trying to Blind the WNBA Golden Goose. Many of you probably know the first game of the playoffs, one of the players that's known, she hates Caitlin. She's intentionally fouled her before, but she had on these extended long nails, especially on this one hand, and she dove, and it looks like she intentionally dug into Caitlin's eye. That's the opinion of some. But they wrote a song about it. See what you think.
Caitlin stepped into the spotlight, shining like the sun. A golden girl with everything. Her journey had begun, but they couldn't stand her brightness, couldn't take her light. The golden goose they're trying to blind just happens to be white. They're trying to blind the golden goose. Yeah, they won't play it fair. They envy her shine, but she's still standing there with the blackened eye. She's not backing down. The golden goose still wearing her crown.
With the black eye, she's not backing down. Did you catch that? Pretty cool. I'm going to listen one more verse.
Took her shot, went straight for the eye. No mistake in her aim, we saw it in slow-mo fly. But Caitlin's got that fight, she's never backing out. No matter how hard they hit, she won't go down. With them, they're trying to blind a golden goose. Yeah, they won't play it fair. They envy her shine, but she's still standing there. With the blackened eye, she's not backing down. The golden goose still wearing her crown.
The golden goose is wearing her crown. That's interesting. See what you think. You can go check out the whole song, Trying to Blind the WNBA Golden Goose. That's a long title. It's a country rock anthem by James L. Wells about Caitlin Clark. But a lot of talk about Clark. Now, she got some controversy when she liked a tweet by Taylor Swift endorsing, if you will, Kamala. And a further reflection, a lot of folks said it wasn't an actual endorsement of Kamala. It encouraged folks to do their research and register to vote. Yeah, but it looked like an endorsement. and then Caitlyn was one of the first to like it. You got to wonder, is Caitlyn trying hard to find little ways to fit in? I don't know, because in a press conference here recently, she said they asked what she thought about playing in WNBA, and she said that she had longed to play. Some of these girls were her heroes, like Taurasi and them. You know, Taurasi's 42, and Caitlyn's 22, so, you know, that's 20 years difference. And then they asked, has any of them offered you any advice? And Caitlyn said, I wish, and shrugged her shoulders, that meaning none of them are embracing her. So there's a jealousy. And, you know, and ladies, I'm not trying to be unkind, but women do tend to get petty. Charles Barkley, LeBron James, a lot of male athletes have said this. And, you know, you guys hold grudges. You do. You know you do. Don't act like you don't. You do. There's girls that hate each other in high school because someone stole a boyfriend that neither of you are married to now. But you still hate her because she stole a boyfriend. And when you go back to a reunion, he's the big ugly guy on the side that no one wants to talk to. But you're still mad because she stole him from you back some 20, 30 years ago. Maybe they'll, I don't know. Maybe the summer will be good to them. I don't know. You'd hope so. It's just sad when you see pettiness take over, especially in professionalism. They're supposed to be professional athletes, but they're acting like babies. It's almost like a kindergarten league sometimes. When you watch some of the responses, and then the one lady, and I won't mention her name because I don't want to give her any attention, she said the Trump hats have her concerned, and implying that everyone that likes Caitlyn is a red-hatted Trump racist. And she said, this has got to stop. Well, that's why no one's watching the WNBA right now. That Caitlyn's out of the playoffs, and they're tanking. They're tanking, and they have no one to blame but themselves. I've said this on social media. You know, trained seals in a circus are taught to take a ball filled with air and put it in a hoop. Ladies, you're like trained seals taking a ball with air and put it in a hoop, okay? It's how you put it in the hoop that gets attention. None of you can dunk, so that's out. That's what gets a lot of attention in the men's league. So how do women get attention? Well, through super-duper shooting. And she can do the logo three. She has the longest three-point and the fastest release in the league. You can't accept that, so you have to bully her, punch her in the eye, and all the things you're doing. I think it's amazing how petty that they are. Well, this is what the election's all about. It's all about the judgeships. Many folks, this is what shockaroos me, the Democrats or Republicans are not talking about this. The next president of the United States, and I've played this reel from time to time just to wake you up. Listen to this, my friend. If you're pumping gas, keep the radio on. There is going to be 22 judgeships. The next president will pick 22 new federal judges. Brand new posts. You with me? All the other federal judgeships will stay the same. They're picking 22 new ones across the nation. Savvy? 6 will be in California, 4 will be in Texas, and 3 will be in Florida. Those first 11 picks alone could flip this country. They're all kind of border states, if you will. So if Trump were to win and he picks those 22 new federal judges, because they'll be in 2025 and 2027, he'll pick 11 in 2025 and 11 more in 2027. Now, here's the thing. He's going to need Congress and the Senate. More than likely, if Trump wins, he'll win Congress and Senate. There'll be a red wave. The problem is, it's the Senate that approves. So the first 11 judges, he can probably get in pretty close. The midterms are probably going to sink him. Most presidents lose the House or the Senate. If he loses the Senate, he will lose the ability to push the next 11. And I could see the Democrats are good at stonewalling, and he may not get a chance to appoint the next 11. So this is why it's crucial, because Donald Trump, if he wins, he's really got 2 years. Because if he loses the midterm, if he loses the House or the Senate, the Democrats, with whatever leverage they have, they will stall, and ruin his last 2 years. So when you're voting, remember that. But remember this. This is true fact jacks about the upcoming judgeships you need to know.
Whoever wins the presidential election could have 22 new federal judge positions to fill, in addition to the vacant seats that arise due to resignations, retirements, and promotions. Congress is working to create 63 new permanent district judgeships, the first new seats since 2003. The Judges Act of 2024 passed the Senate unanimously. It now heads to the House. If the bill is signed into law, the next president will be able to appoint 11 of the judges in 2025 and 11 more in 2027. Those 22 new seats country. There are 6 in California, 4 in Texas, and 3 in Florida, while the rest are dispersed in smaller states.
Okay, let me just try to show you that map, or explain it to you. There's 6 in California, there's 4 in Texas, and there'll be 3 in Florida. Now, when it said they'll be scattered around the states, let's see. That's, I believe, Indiana, Illinois, up in Massachusetts, and there's going to be one here in Georgia, so etc. So this is what's going to happen. So as you start understanding this, you should do some research on it. These judgeship appointments are going to be crucial for the future because judgeships are lifetime. You know, these 22 judgeships will be lifetime appointments.
And 3 in Florida, while the rest are dispersed in smaller states. Not only would the bill create the first new seats since 2003, it would be the first significant expansion since 1990.
Our federal courts are in a genuine crisis of workload. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, not since 1990 have we added any significant amount of new federal judges. And since then, our nation has added 100 million people. Federal filings have increased 40%, and the weighted case average across our nation is 550 cases per judge.
Now, this is Senator Chris Coons. He's a Democrat, and he's talking about how there are 500-plus cases waiting per federal judge we have now. So by adding these 22 new federal judgeships, it will lighten the load, is their assumption. But here's my thinking. I think what they know's coming is there's going to be a huge push to legalize immigrants and make them full citizens, or have them either go through the court process. That could logjam our current judiciary forever. Plus, don't forget the Chevron ruling. When the Supreme Court made the Chevron ruling, basically what they did, the secret courts that they have in D.C. that was taking care of some of this overload, the problem is those were secret judges and secret courts that were never appointed through Congress or Senate or by the people. They were appointed by bureaucrats up in D.C. That's why some people like Manafort. You remember when Manafort, part of Trump's campaign in 2016, he was arrested with no charges. He was put in a lockdown facility, and he was locked down for over 3 months with no communication, no touch with his family. He never went through a judge. He never got his chance, his day in court, because those secret courts and those secret judges were they exercised their secret authority. Well, with the Supreme Court knocking that down and taking out those secret courts, this has caused a quandary. So now they're going to push all these secret black ops courts, if you will, into public court. Siri, you with me? This is interesting stuff, and you need to educate yourself on the federal judgeship, because when you vote, you're voting for who nominates them. Yes, the president nominates, but he has a team that helps him. That's why you, as a Christian, need to not only vote, your congressman, your representatives should know your name. Now, not saying you have to yell at them. If all you do is go and criticize and tell them how terrible they are and how awful they are, then don't be surprised when they don't pick up the phone. I know some groups, all they do is find everything wrong with every politician, and it's boo, boo, poo, poo, and all they want to do is yell at them and bark at their tires every time they drive by. Is any wonder Some of these politicians say, well, listen, I don't want to come to one of your events. I don't want to take your phone call. I don't want to return your emails. Because whatever I say to you, you yell at it. But if you try to build a bridge and say, now listen, I have a problem with this, but I try to find something you like. Say, but I like what you're doing here, or I could be persuaded to like this. Can you help me understand where you're coming from? See, that's why several congressmen and senators send me prayer requests. There's a lot of officials here locally and statewide that when they are in a jam, they said, Macil, they'll send me that. Will you pray for me? And I said, absolutely. What's their names? I said, I'm not going to tell you. Because that's a relationship I've built up over time. Savvy? So when these folks are in need and you offer prayer for them, they know, hey, he's going to truly pray for me. They know I care about them. We have an annual Thanksgiving meal here in the community. I invite all the politicians, and I have all them stand up, and we try to acknowledge them all. We give them all a hand, say thank you for your service, Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or Independent. Now, I've had some say, it sounds like you have nothing but a GOP convention. That's because Democrats won't come. I don't know why. It's like they're afraid for us to pray over them. I think they're so afraid we're going to, or it could make it on Facebook that they actually went to a conservative pastor's gathering, and somehow that would light up their voting base. Isn't that a shame? I say that to say this. This country will not get better without healing. And the only way to heal the country is through friendship, prayer, and try to build a bridge. Now, when there are extreme atrocities or extreme violators of the law in public office, yes. But I will go on record saying I think it's a witch hunt what they're doing to Mayor Adams in New York. I think Mayor Adams is the only Democrat. He spoke out against the borders. He spoke out against these sanctuary cities being overloaded. And he spoke out against the Palestine movement and called it a global initiative by professional manipulators to the young and trying to manipulate the minds of the young of our country. I've got the press. I play the clip every so often just to remind you. That was his crime. That's what he did. He went against the narrative. And Democrats will punish you if you go against their narrative. Look what Nancy Pelosi did to Joe Biden. She said, Joe, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Joe did not want to step out of the race. He truly thought he could beat Donald Trump again. He wanted the challenge. He wanted the choice. The Scranton Joe, the tough guy. Kind of feel sorry for him at this point because when they told him basically no, and then he got COVID and went out of, you didn't see him for a while, you got to wonder, okay, who takes the president out of public view for 7 to 8 days? And then all of a sudden they post a piece of paper that's not on any White House or presidential letterhead. It's just a white piece of paper. And if you go look, it's bad grammar. Somebody typed that in a hurry saying that he was stepping out of the race. And then a few minutes later on his X account, he's saying, hey, somebody, just so you know, I suggest Kamala Harris be our representative and all my delegates go to her. And it took him another 8 days to confirm that verbally. So for 16 days, Biden was undercover. And then to prove my point, look at the Democratic convention. They had him speak on Monday night, and they didn't put him on stage till 11:28 p.m. The president, the reigning president of the United States, was given the Heisman. They said, whoa, Joe, we don't want you in the prime time. Monday night is usually the kiddie table. That's the time you put in up-and-coming stars. That's when you have people that they're just getting their foot wet in politics. And then Tuesday night, it's more of a, maybe one heavy hitter. Then Wednesday night, that's when you get some big boys and girls. And then Thursday night, you accept the nomination, and that's your power team. Monday night is the kiddie table. They put Joe Biden at the kiddie table. They put Joe Biden not only at the kiddie table, but at 11:28 p.m., and they orchestrated these long applauses to lengthen the night. If you go look, they were clapping, looking around, and just like, keep clapping, keeps Joe in the back, keep Joe in the back. And when he finally came out at 11:28, everybody's asleep. They wanted to do that so you wouldn't see him live. And in case he made a foul up, they could do a little edit and then put out maybe a 5-minute part of what he said. Does anyone disagree with what I'm saying? Joe went against the narrative. Mayor Adams went against the narrative, and the Democrats punished him for it. Tulsi Gabbard went against the narrative, so she left the party. And another one, I think, the reason he's getting out of politics, Joe Manchin. He will not endorse Kamala Harris. He has stepped down from the Democratic Party and has now claimed himself an independent, and he did that with 6 months left in his term as senator. A long-term senator from West Virginia has said, I'm leaving the Democratic Party. My last 6 months, just call me an independent. I won't endorse Kamala Harris. Now, you may not like Joe Manchin, but understand this. Him and Nick Saban grew up together. You know, him and Nick are pals. And I believe there's a core element to both their characters that like things, you know, that are honest and true. Some agree, some do not. That's okay. You have the right to be wrong. But I'll be back. This is Macil Duncan with the Macil Duncan Radio Show, broadcasting live from Chattanooga, Tennessee. When we come back, is it true the Democrats don't want God in their platform? And when they say the Pledge of Allegiance, they leave out under God. I got some clips. See what you think when we come back.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Well, hey, this is Greg Lane. I live in Hickson, Tennessee, and I just want to tell you how much I enjoy the Macil Duncan radio show. Man, I like to listen to it because he talks facts. I love the guy because he loves Jesus, and, you know, it's where I go to find out information, what's going on in the world. But just awesome. I'm glad you guys have him on there, and just keep on keeping on. We love Macil Duncan. This is Greg Lane from Hickson, Tennessee.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today? The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn is why no one ever helps.
After years of incarceration, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange made his first public appearance, breaking his silence, saying he pleaded guilty to journalism to secure his freedom.
I want to be totally clear. I am not free today because the system worked. I am free today after years of incarceration because I pled guilty to journalism. I pled guilty to seeking information from a source. I pled guilty to obtaining information from a source. And I pled guilty to informing the public what that information was.
In 2010, WikiLeaks published classified U.S. military documents and videos from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, exposing alleged human rights violations, prisoner abuse, and civilian casualties. The publication sparked global controversy, leading to a 14-years-long legal battle for Assange. The case has become a focal point in debates over press freedom, national security, and the limits of investigative journalism. While press freedom advocates celebrated Assange's role, U.S. authorities accused him of recklessness, claiming the leaks endangered lives and compromised national security. Assange pleaded guilty to a single felony charge under the Espionage Act, ending his legal battle in the UK and paving the way for his return to Australia. Assange appeared before European lawmakers addressing the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which released a report concluding that Assange qualifies as a political prisoner, calling for a British inquiry into potential inhumane treatment during his detention. He provided testimony about the impact of his detention on human rights and his personal well-being. He described his imprisonment as a relentless struggle to stay alive physically and mentally, highlighting the profound toll of isolation. Despite concerns over WikiLeaks' disclosures, the Council's report noted no evidence of actual harm resulted from the leaks, challenging the severity of the charges against Assange. Assange's case ignited a global discourse on press freedom, with Assange arguing, quote, "The fundamental issue is simple. Journalists should not be prosecuted for doing their jobs." For Straight Arrow News, I'm Lauren Taylor. For more of our news stories, download this.
Hurricane Helene's devastation in North Carolina is being described as catastrophic.
It's way worse than we expected. We were not preparing for an event like this.
Drone video captures the extent of the devastation in Asheville, where many roads are impassable, isolating residents and complicating rescue efforts.
We're dealing with a situation that is unlike anybody's ever seen in western North Carolina.
More than 600 people reportedly are missing in Buncombe County, North Carolina, where cell connections are down and travel near impossible.
There are 92 rescue teams out working, doing search and rescue right now.
Scores of residents lined up outside a local grocery store in Asheville to stock up on items, while in the distance, sounds of a city slowly trying to make a comeback can be heard. As the community grapples with the aftermath, residents are coming together to support one another.
We're hosting a potluck tonight. Everybody bring your own bowl and spoon, so we're sharing food.
For the east in Rutherford County, Lake Lure, the once serene landscape, has been transformed into a scene of destruction, with debris scattered throughout. Helene hit Florida's Gulf Coast last week as a Category 4 hurricane, moving through Georgia, the Carolinas, and Tennessee. The storm impacted multiple states, leaving communities reeling.
I'd like to now ask for a moment of silence and prayer, if you would, for those who have died. Thank you.
On Monday, former President Donald Trump and evangelist Franklin Graham visited affected areas in Valdosta, Georgia, to raise awareness and support recovery efforts.
Thank you, Mr. President, for coming and helping to put a spotlight on this city, this state, and this region that has lost so much.
So there's a lot going on in the flooding, and as I told you, there's a lot of churches and organizations, but one, that's my wife's hometown in Elizabeth, in Tennessee, and I heard from some of the family today. They've been out helping so much that my brother-in-law made the news. He's a shy guy. He's one of those guys, if your mule's in a ditch, Tim's going to come help you. Super guy. And so anyway, Elizabeth in Tennessee, there's a church there, Pleasant Beach Baptist, my wife's home church. Now my parents attend there. Very, very good conservative church. If you're ever in the area, go to Pleasant Beach Baptist. My good friend Junior goes there. And they're doing mission work. They're doing the hot meals. They're taking supplies out. They're those kind. They're servants all the time. But if you'd like to send money to a church that's literally boots on the ground and every penny will go to help them, that you won't worry about anything going to administration. Go online to pleasantbeachbaptist.com. That's Pleasant Beach, like you're going to the beach. pleasantbeachbaptist.com. You can give online. They have a missionary part. You could put anything in that mission goes directly to this relief. I'm praying for $10,000. Can anyone write or send 500, 1,000? They need funds because they're not a rich church either. They're not a poor church, but they're not a very wealthy church. And I'll tell you the kind of church they are. Even though they run several hundred in their services, they still rotate the cleaning among the membership. They try to put every money they can into missions and in the community. They're just that kind of people. They're simple, country, good people. And if you can send some money to pleasantbeachbaptist.com, I'd appreciate you praying about it and seeing what you can do. Well, the flood has caused so much disruption and disharmony. There's a lot of folks out there saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this or that. Well, there's a dad that walked nearly 30 miles through the flood debris. Why would the guy do 30 miles? Because he wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle. This is a powerful story.
Showing you the devastation and debris left behind from floodwaters in Unicoi County. But can you imagine walking, or rather crawling and climbing through all that debris? That's what one dad did in order to get to his daughter's wedding, to walk her down the aisle. News Channel 11's Karen Jenkins has his incredible story.
What was supposed to be a 2-hour drive from South Carolina to Johnson City, Tennessee for his daughter's wedding took David Jones 7 hours by car and another 5.5 hours on foot, all because of flooding from the remnants of Hurricane Helene. After being diverted multiple times on Interstate 26, just outside of Irwin, state troopers told him the rest of the way was impassable. But this dad would not take no for an answer.
I said, you have to understand, my daughter's getting married at 11 o'clock this morning, and I'm going to be there to walk her down the aisle.
Jones, who has run marathons in the past, estimated it was less than 30 miles away, so he decided to walk. Jones found himself in total darkness with only his cell phone light to guide him through mounds of debris.
I'd have to climb 6-7 foot tall piles of debris of old fences and huge trees and tangled mess.
Certainly precarious. At one point, the trek nearly became deadly when he encountered crews cleaning the road with a backhoe.
I was up to my knees in mud and couldn't move. And he doesn't see me. And of course, his cab is facing the other way most of the time, and he's swinging this thing around, and I'm ducking and really like, this could be it. And a lot of prayer at that point.
Miraculously, Jones says he was able to free himself in time and continue on his way, eventually getting back on Interstate 26, still on foot. To avoid being hit by cars, Jones carried a reflective stake. He made it to his daughter's wedding, and she had no idea what her dad had gone through to be able to walk her down the aisle.
That's so emotionally moving that my dad loves me that much that he would come and go through all of that to get to my wedding.
At the reception, Jones presented a gift to the new couple, his reflective stake.
It's just for them to remember to be a protector and a good reflection of each other and a reflection of God.
Jones says he's no hero. It's what any dad would do. Elizabeth disagrees and says she's just so thankful he made it.
How about that? I'm a dad of 3, and I'm telling you, nothing would keep me from my daughter's wedding. If at all possible, I would walk on fire. I would swim through an ocean, because that's just something special. You want your girls to have that day, and I love Shana, Rachel, and Macy with all my heart. And Pastor, salute to you, sir. That's a good story, and that's the kind of stuff they should be talking about. That's amazing. But some people don't understand all the aftermath, and this is CBN News, the recovery effort after the flood.
President Biden is expected to visit North Carolina soon, promising emergency disaster funds for affected regions. Meanwhile, National Guards members from at least 8 states have been deployed to North Carolina to help in the response and recovery effort. Organizations like CBN's Operation Blessing are on the ground mobilizing resources. The aid group is staging out of Valdosta, Georgia. OBI is partnering with Valdosta's Anchor Faith Church to send volunteers into affected neighborhoods to help with cleanup efforts and prepare hot meals for residents. In Forest City, North Carolina, Operation Blessing turned this parking lot into a distribution site.
That's pretty awesome. So there's a lot of people chipping in from all over the nation, and to hear that they're finally sending National Guard and some troops in, that's a little late, but it's at least happening. And a lot of folks, I think this has caught a lot of people off guard. And when we come back, we'll be talking about Iran, the missile crisis there. It's something to talk about. It's something very, very, very nefarious, if you will, to think that under the Biden administration, they helped Iran get and there was a Iran nuclear project, if you will. Donald Trump froze the funds, and then Biden unfroze the funds. And when he did that, that's when you had all this crap hit, all the stuff hit, and then October 7th, a year ago, we're coming up on the anniversary of that. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I think the November 5th election will be probably something that we'll all remember. Because either way it goes, it's going to be historic. Because there's people on the left that think Donald Trump's of the devil. There's people on the right that think Kamala and her group's of the devil. And when we come back, I promised, what's sad to me is how the Democrats don't want God in their platform or in their agenda. We'll be back after the break. This is Macil Duncan, live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, on the Macil Duncan Radio Show.
Hi, this is Kat from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I just wanted to say how much I love your show. I love the topics that you cover and all the special guests that you have come online. It keeps things really fun and interesting. Thank you.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Thank you, and we're back. You know, when it comes to fighting crime, he's never going to roll over. He's McGruff the crime dog.
Roll over. You're okay, George.
Thanks.
And I got 2 words to make your neighborhood safer.
Uh-huh.
Coffee cake.
Ah, the old poison coffee cake trick. The cook takes a bite, falls down to the ground.
Oh, it's for your neighbors.
You want to poison your neighbors?
No, never.
Oh, thank goodness.
No, for 25 years, I've been giving tips about preventing crime. One of them is to invite people over for a cup of coffee and share the problems you see on your street and what to do about them.
That's great.
You can invite your local police officer to help, too.
You know, I hear they're very fond of donuts.
No, that's just a myth.
Oh, well, I'd come to your doghouse for coffee cake in a safer neighborhood.
Now you're talking. You can cut down on crime by not just locking your door, but opening up to your neighbors.
Still, a 10-pound bunt cake dropped on a bad guy's foot could help.
It couldn't hurt. And going to weprevent.org for other tips could help, too.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, the National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Okay, everybody, it's time for another game of Who Wants to Volunteer in Your Community? Let's go to Ella in Santa Monica, California.
Hey, wait, I don't want to volunteer.
Well, I have a feeling you'll change your mind when you realize how much fun volunteering really can be.
But
in fact, Ella, we've asked your entire algebra class here to tell you more.
Wait, you did what?
Take it away, class.
Hey, Ella, we've been noticing you lately in algebra class.
You have?
I'm feeling some love here.
Yeah, and we were thinking that you should start tutoring people because you're all, like, smart and stuff.
I should?
Yeah, you free tonight?
Go for it.
I should.
They love you, Ella. Well, sounds like we have another happy volunteer.
That's me.
To find out ways you can volunteer in your community, log on to teensvolunteer.org and join us next time for another episode of Who Wants to Volunteer in Your Community? Do what you like to do. Volunteer. A public service message brought to you by the USA Freedom Corps, the U.S. Department of Justice, the Crime Prevention Coalition of America, and the Ad Council.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed... could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now that sounds pretty good, and I love the Pledge of Allegiance. I actually got in trouble with Facebook back when I did the Red Hat videos. Those of you guys have been following me back before I had a radio show. I used to just sit in my truck and talk about politics or patriotic views, and I would get 6,000 to 10,000 views. And then the 2016 election came, but I would take off my hat and invite you to say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. Someone got offended, and they froze my account. I got put in Facebook jail for encouraging people to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that not amazing? So when I tell you there's people that don't like God in our country, I'm not kidding. And I think a lot of you know this. Now, this is Tulsi Gabbard explaining there are people wanting to stop our ability to worship God and to cherish God.
Today's Democrat Party is doing everything that they can to try to erase God from every facet of our public life.
I don't care if you think I'm
and going after.
I don't know if you caught that. He goes, I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated. Now, again, this is Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat from Hawaii, a very liberal state. Don't forget, that's where Mr. Obama birth name Barry Soetoro. Do a deep dive on the Soetoro family. Very wealthy family in the Hawaiians. At one time, one of the 10th wealthiest families in the world. So Barry Soetoro comes from Manai, okay? He changed his name to Barack Hussein Obama when he became a Muslim. But the bottom line is he's from Hawaii. Tulsi's from Hawaii. Very liberal, okay? This is before Magnum P.I. was popular. Let's just, this is way after Magnum P.I. Back when we all used to love Tom Selleck and we thought Hawaii Five-0, Bookham Dano and all that. Well, Hawaii has slipped into pretty much a very, very liberal abyss. So I'm going to play this again. This is Tulsi Gabbard confirming. Okay, this isn't someone accusing. This is someone that was in the deep part of the Democratic Party. Don't forget Tulsi Gabbard. Before AOC, she was the AOC. She was one of the future. They had picked her to be one of their shining stars of the future. Tulsi Gabbard was vice president of the DNC convention. And when they stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders and gave it to Hillary, because the superdelegates, if you know anything about the Democrats, everyone in the country can vote whoever you want. But they have these things called superdelegates that can override the votes of the people. Did you know that? She was one of the super delegates, and so she repealed. Let me digress. My daughters went to a private school. We homeschooled them up through junior high, up to 6th grade. In junior high and high school, we put them in a public Christian school, but it was a Free Will Baptist school. The principal told us, we're a Southern Baptist church, that they pretty much leaned towards their own. And I said, what do you mean? Well, sister Free Will Baptist churches, and when awards are giving out, it pretty much, you need to be a Free Will Baptist kid. Well, anyway, there was a girl that was very popular, and everyone told them they had voted for her. It was my middle daughter. So anyway, I'll tell you this because this is no, they had a homecoming in basketball, and the court was there, and everyone's announced. And they announced my daughter. She got almost a standing ovation from the student body and everybody, and the other people got clapped. Well, then they announced who the homecoming queen was. And no offense, this was a kid that did no sports, nothing. And when they announced her name, only her family stood and clapped. Nobody in the gym clapped. And it came out later that the teachers had decided they wanted to make sure a Free Will Baptist kid won that major prestigious award and not a Southern Baptist kid. I know that sounds stupid. Let's take it to a bigger level. They did not want Bernie Sanders to be the homecoming king, if you will, of the Democratic Party. They thought Hillary could beat Donald Trump. I tell you today, if Bernie, remember Feel the Burn? If Bernie had gone against Donald, I think it would have been a much tighter race, and I would have loved to have seen the outcome. I digress. She not only resigned from being VP, she resigned from being a superdelegate, and Tulsi Gabbard made an enemy of all time from Hillary Clinton from then on, and she's still breathing, which is amazing.
Today's Democrat Party is doing everything that they can to try to erase God from every facet of our public life.
I don't care if you think I'm
and going after and targeting people of faith and spirituality, which directly defies our First Amendment and our freedom of religion. I'm not saying you should believe what I believe or casting judgment on anyone. It's not that. It's about the Constitution, recognizing that our government should not be weaponized against people of faith and spirituality.
President
and that freedom
Biden
of religion
signed an executive order barring gender discrimination
at all. It means I get to express my love for God, my faith in God in the way that I choose, whether it be in private or in public, at the time of my choosing. And another person who is an atheist also has the freedom to express their views.
So, Tulsi Gabbard, Hawaii, very liberal, ran for president, and ended up leaving the party. She's now part of Trump's transition team with Kennedy. She's coming out and saying, because she knows the skinny, she's saying, hey, the Democrats don't want you to, and you're saying, well, Mason, how do you know she's just not a bitter Democrat? Well, let's talk about, this was several years ago when Obama was being voted in, and they voted God out of the platform. The reason I know this is because it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was pastoring at that time, and this was amazing. See if anyone remembers this.
God and politics, likely to be a big topic this election, and it's already a big topic at the DNC. Our Jason Puckett looked into why the new Democratic platform had to be amended the day after it was passed.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
They just had voted God out of the platform. Okay? And it was resounding. I'm going to skip ahead to where then after some bad press within 24 hours, they had to revote God back in the platform, and the people didn't like it.
Paul Ryan wasn't the only person questioning the missing word. It was a big talking point here yesterday, and people all over Charlotte have very different opinions on it.
How dare anyone say that all of these hard-working Americans who've come together for this convention somehow operate without the underpinning of faith in their lives?
Some think that removing God might be a good thing.
There are many of us who believe that our potential comes from biology and nature and not from any divine beings.
And they went on to a representative from Wisconsin. He looked a whole lot like Tim Walz, but it didn't say his name. Anyway, they voted God out of their platform. And within 24 hours, they got such backlash, they had to vote him back in, but it was booed down. So why would the Democrats want to do that? And this was back in 2012. The Democratic Convention meeting omits, remember back when COVID, they had these virtual conventions? Listen how the Democrats, the guy that led the Pledge of Allegiance, he omits under God. Check it out.
And David, to the conventions, there's a story that's breaking, actually, that you broke on specific Democratic caucuses reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at the virtual convention, leaving out the words "under God." Let's take a listen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you catch that? He left out "under God." I'm going to let you hear it again. He's leading the Pledge of Allegiance back in COVID for the virtual Democratic convention.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's not how it goes, pal. I shared with you how it goes. This is how it goes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one nation, under God, one nation, under God, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't you love the drum roll? Now, this is what's interesting. Why would the Democrats want to leave that out? Why are they afraid of God? And I think a lot of folks are asking, like me, what motivates that? I don't know. Outside the fact, if you don't want God in the schools, you don't want the Ten Commandments in the schools, you don't want folks, reading the Bible, you want to destroy the history and the founding fathers, is it any wonder they don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance with God in it? I'll be back. This is Macil Duncan, live from Chattanooga.
I just wanted to share that I love the radio show that Macil does. He just tells it like it is, which is so refreshing for a media outlet. He has an easygoing and uplifting personality, and he just makes you feel like you're a friend sitting in their living room talking. He does not fall for the gaslighting of today, and he shares the truth of the matter. I love his sense of humor, and his sound effects are great, like when he whistles, cracks me up. He has so much wisdom, and his variety of guests is just awesome. I learn a lot from his show. He does his research, obviously. So I just really wanted to say thank you, Chattanooga Radio. I just love this show. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
WVMG Chattanooga.
Little boy blue, come blow on your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. You've messed up again. What's the matter with you? Can't you do anything right? Worthless little brat.
What a child learns about violence, a child learns for life.
Somebody's going to get hit.
Teach carefully. We can show you how. We're ACT, Adults and Children Together Against Violence. And if you're a parent or caregiver, we can help you teach your child how to rise above violence, not succumb to it. Visit actagainstviolence.org for details, or call 877-ACT-WISE for a free brochure. Call today, 877-ACT-WISE, and stop violence before it starts. This message brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Psychological Association, and the MetLife Foundation.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year, 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I had something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
With exactly 5 weeks to go until election night, the vice presidential candidates will square off in a debate tonight in New York City. One of the questions is how many people will actually watch the debate between Democratic Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota and Republican Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. Vice presidential debates typically do not draw the same big audiences of presidential debates. Political experts say both candidates are still introducing themselves to the nation. The debate offers them a chance to stand out and get recognized. Looking back at past Nielsen television ratings for vice presidential debates, the 2008 clash between Democratic candidate Joe Biden and Republican candidate Sarah Palin stands out. It drew an audience of 42% of American households. 4 years later, that number fell to 32% when Biden debated Republican Paul Ryan. More recently, in 2020, the debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence drew an audience of 33.7%. Nielsen measures the number of households using television that tune in, often called HUT levels. However, it does not sample the number of people streaming a debate online. 67.1 million people watched last month's presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We will see how many tune in for tonight's debate.
So tonight, Walz and Vance will go at it. Both served in the military. J.D. Vance was a Marine, served overseas, decorated. Walz has a questionable military record in that he was offered a promotion, but he did not want to be deployed overseas, so he put in his papers, and what he does, he reports on that rank, at master sergeant rank, whatever he had given, but it was repealed because the promotion was so that he would lead, and he did not want to do that. The other interesting thing about Tampon Tim is that he was at Tiananmen Square when those kids were shut down in China. He has a partnership. And his wife and him spent their honeymoon on the anniversary date of that massacre, and they spent their honeymoon in China. So you got to wonder, does Tampon Tim have connections with China? Will that be brought out? That's interesting. But the debate itself, I'm sure it's going to be well viewed. I plan on watching. But I wonder if there's three things that will come up at some point, either by J.D. Vance asking, but now CBS is going to do just like ABC did. They're going to probably be very light with the Democrat. They're going to be very hard on J.D. Vance. But I think Vance has got the moxie to take it. But they're going to have to talk about the economy. They're going to have to talk about immigration and the border. But I think that the Democrats will try to do is bring up abortion and act like J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance has gone on record, as Sarah Palin and some of the younger GOPers, that they would like to see a nationwide ban on abortion. So be prepared for him to have to defend that. He may get asked about that. And I'm just curious what else he could be asked about. But if I was asking, if this was a Democrat, they would go crazy. But since it's Republican, there's a 43-foot nude Trump statue that's just been assembled outside of Las Vegas, and it's sparking a lot of conversation. And they put it up just in time for a rally that Kamala had, but it's atrocious. It's $500,000 to make. And here's one of the local. This was News 3 in Las Vegas talking about it. See what you think.
Portrayal of the former president starting a political conversation off I-15 north of Las Vegas. It's a giant nude marionette of Trump, as Ambar Rodriguez learned who put it there, and she also learned why.
Marie, it has been car after car with people trying to get a look of the art installation of former President Trump themselves. Well, News 3 was contacted by a spokesperson for the artist who wants to remain anonymous, but did share some insight. Now
what's that about? The artist who has a 43-foot statue of Donald Trump naked, very pornographic, very unbecoming, hanging from a crane. But he gets to remain anonymous?
They tell us that the piece is titled Crooked and Obscene. It is 43 feet tall, 10 feet wide marionette, weighs 6,000 pounds. It is made out of foam over rebar. The artist's spokesperson tells me the purpose is to ignite conversations, and it sure has already, with the images.
Ignite conversations. Now, this is after the 2 assassination attempts. This is nothing but people trying to trigger people to want to kill Donald Trump. A 43-foot nude depiction of Donald Trump that shows him extremely overweight, and it shows his private parts, and it has him being hung by a crane. If I was J.D. Vance, I would bring this up, and I would say, you guys are sick for endorsing this, and don't tell me you didn't, because this has got to be Democratic funded. It's in the county right over, I believe it's Carter County, and it's got a full-blown Democratic commission board that had to approve the permits for this to happen. $500,000 invested in this piece of art. They call it a piece of art. Now, can you imagine if they did Obama, if they lynched Obama? There would be a national outcry. There would be cities burning today. There would be all kind of stuff. They're either trying to incite Trump supporters, or they're trying to ignite more assassination attempts. Either way, this should not be happening. I'm just curious if it will be brought up tonight. Anyway, moving on. The border is an issue, but the sad thing is there's Arizona sheriffs that say they won't enforce a proposed immigration law. There are immigration laws that are on the ballot coming up here on this presidential ballot. If passed, it would make it a state as well as federal, those state laws that if you cross the border illegally, you committed a crime. But there's sheriffs saying they won't enforce this. This is not good.
Sheriffs in at least 4 Arizona counties say they will not enforce a controversial immigration measure if voters approve it in November. Proposition 314, also known as the Secure the Border Act, would make it a state crime for migrants to cross illegally into the U.S. This would lead to state and local law enforcement being responsible for carrying out the law by arresting and prosecuting suspected violators. Supporters say the measure will help reduce illegal immigration in the state. Critics say it's asking local police to do something that is entirely outside of their constitutional authority and enforce federal immigration law.
Now, wait a minute. If you are in a sanctuary city, it is now, if you claim yourself a sanctuary city, you are prohibited by the clause from working with ICE and federal law enforcement. This is a loophole around that, saying, okay, if you won't include the feds in rounding up illegals, well, then you have a state mandate, a state law that will hold you accountable to. What they don't want is the accountability. See, if a illegal alien comes into one of these sanctuary cities, the sheriffs and the police can say, well, there's nothing I can do. My hands are tied. Well, with this, they're like saying, no, do your job. Pick these guys up and get them out of here. Or if they're truly here on legit reasons, get them shelter. Don't let them become trafficked workers, etc.
They also claim it's going to lead to racial profiling and budget issues. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanios told The Guardian the measure would increase expenses without funding from the state. He went on to say, I'm not going to allow my deputies on that border to arrest people, to book them in our jail when we have a federal government that has that responsibility. They should have solved it years ago. In 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down an Arizona law making illegal immigration a state crime on top of a federal crime. The justices ruled immigration enforcement was a federal matter that preempted the state law and that Congress had not given states the latitude to regulate immigration. Texas is currently facing legal battles over a similar law that allows local police and judges to arrest and deport those in the country illegally.
Now, what's different? When this went to the Supreme Court before, that was a liberal-led Supreme Court. Now it's conservative. Ginsburg's gone. Scalia's gone. But he voted to support these state laws. But what's happened now, Donald Trump has stacked the Supreme Court as a conservative court to where they're afraid this could pass now. They could go back and reverse. And they've reversed the ruling. If you don't believe me, go back and look. The Supreme Court back in the day said slavery was okay. Okay? So every now and then they realize they got it wrong. So it'll be interesting to see how this happens. But there's a song one of my listeners sent me. It's called Build That Wall. See what you think.
Out on the border where the rivers run dry, there's a promise made under a desert sky. A man with a plan, a nation's call. He said, I'll keep you safe, I'll build that wall. United we stand, divided we fall. For every generation we're answering the call. Build that wall, keep our land secure. For the freedom we hold and the lives we endure. Standing tall, we'll watch it rise. Brick by brick under these American skies. From the hills of Texas to the California shore, they said it can't be done, but we've heard that before. A line in the sand, a promise to stand with the strength of this country in every hand. For every mile of freedom, every stretch of land, we hold the line together with strength in every hand. Build that wall, keep our land secure. For the freedom we hold and the lives we endure. Standing tall, we'll watch it rise. Brick by brick under these American skies.
So what do you think? Build that wall. Go to YouTube and watch it for yourself. And it says protect American borders. I think it's going to be an issue in this upcoming election. It's an interesting song. I won't play the rest of it, but see what you think. Go check it out yourself. But illegal immigration has caused some concerns, and one is in the education system. Chicago teachers said they were told to give migrant students passing grades even if they failed.
As thousands of undocumented immigrants entered the U.S. from the southern border the last couple of years, states like Texas sent busloads of migrants to cities and states with more immigrant-friendly policies. Chicago, Illinois was one of those cities. Since Texas started busing migrants there in 2022, more than 50,000 migrants were brought to the city, with many choosing to stay there. Well, now Chicago public school teachers say they were told by administrators to give migrant students passing grades. The teachers telling WGN Radio they do not speak Spanish, and the students often did not speak English, making communication all but impossible. They also say many schools do not offer any English as a second language support. Despite that, Chicago teachers say they were instructed to give every migrant student a 70% in every subject so they could move on to the next grade. Before Chicago Public Schools was aware teachers had talked to WGN, a spokesperson told the local station CPS held migrant students to the same academic standards as everyone else. However, after the report came out, CPS said its guidelines for promoting students to the next grade are, quote, modified to serve the special needs of English language learners.
You guys remember this term, no child left behind? So it was Bush, it was GOP, but it's a very, very nothing but indoctrination, meaning that they want the government to control all the education in the states. And I personally wish we would get rid of the Department of Education, send education back to the states, just like they did abortion, and let each state declare, hey, this is our education priorities. And if they did that, I think what you would see happen is competition breeds excellence. And if you didn't have statewide, because see what's happening now is people are competing for federal funds. Many public school teachers have told me they teach more kids how to pass the test than actual knowledge, because if they pass tests and they get higher passing grades, they get more federal funding, savvy? And sometimes teachers get some federal bonuses, savvy? Money talks. So the problem with it, when money talks, a lot of times morality walks. A little pun. But the problem we're having here is they're saying pass the kids whether they know the stuff or not, just to get them through the system. That's not good. And the Chicago teachers that have come out as whistleblowers are putting their livelihood at stake, and I'm sure that was a very bold thing to do, and it's not easy to do. Let me tell you, when I've had to stand out before and testify at times when it wasn't popular, and especially when there's some people that want to try to always paint themselves in a better light than they really are, and some of you guys have been there, and some of you know what I'm talking about, and but if you tell the truth and live the truth, you don't have any regrets. That's just the bottom line. If you tell the truth and live the truth, you don't have any regrets. Some people I know that compromise to get certain things down the road, once they get there, they say, you know, I think I may have messed up. I think I compromised for financial gain, and I may have got the money, got a few things, but now reflecting back, I compromised my character. So teachers, don't do that. If you're a public school teacher and you're told to do something like that, don't fall for it. Now, this is Jesse Waters talking about how the debate tonight, that Walz could be the last hope for their campaign, because Trump is climbing in all the polls, and especially in the swing states.
So what impact will the VP debate tomorrow night have on this race? Former counselor to President Trump and host of Fox Nation's Here's the Deal, Kellyanne Conway. So what impact will this have?
They're lowering the expectation for Walz the way they lowered expectations for Harris. They know that the two of them sometimes upstage each other because they're very unimpressive and inauthentic. So we have to be a little bit careful here. I believe the Yale Law School educated, trained J.D. Vance is going to prevail in that debate for a couple of reasons. The mainstream media and other Democrats did a really stupid thing with J.D. Walz. They tried to drown him out in the first 2 days after Trump picked him. They turned the spigot full blast. That's not how you heard someone, you heard them drip by drip, but they said, let's put it all out there. And he survived. He thought Trump would just leave him out to sea with no lifeboat. The opposite happened. He got bigger, bolder, stronger. The campaign said today, Jesse, that Vance has done more than 100 interviews.
Wow.
That's the preparation you need, that muscle memory, taking the tough questions, shagging the flies, not always having the best day, but understanding how to do it the next time. Waltz has been hiding, not in the basement in plain view. Michigan-Minnesota game, he gets booed. Trump goes to the Alabama-Georgia game. You would have thought he was the quarterback throwing the Hail Mary on the 4th down. So I have high expectations for J.D. Waltz tomorrow. And I think that Kamala is always looking for someone to blame. He's going to be able to blame Waltz.
This
I
is
asked
set
President
up
Trump
for
today.
him to take
Yes,
the
why
fall
not?
if she loses.
I think that Kamala picked Waltz for much the same reason that Biden picked Kamala. Let me pick one of 3 people in the whole country who can't upstage me. Most people would outshine them easily. She also thought that Waltz, I think Tim Waltz is also what most liberals, most Trump-hating liberals in this country think a white guy from the Midwest looks like. It's like, let's get people in the Rust Belt. We'll have Tim Waltz. He's one of them, yes, sirree. Meanwhile, it's President Trump who's, when asked, what's your plan for J.D. Vance as your running mate? He said, quote, I think I'll park him in Pennsylvania. And now Trump is actually winning Pennsylvania. Kamala's going to struggle with the union households, the Catholic households, anybody who touches and concerns fracking and cares about anybody who's in the energy industry. I asked President Trump today, I interviewed for an hour. I said to him, the guy I know, you, is not going to be able to sit still after a 90-minute VP debate and let that be the last word in presidential debates. You're going to say, well, when's our next one? And I hope he does that. I hope the door
Do you think there's going to be another debate with Harris?
He had said no, but he didn't say totally no. That October 23rd one was CNN's too late. But why not get back in there? Trump's like, I told him, you're like Shohei Ohtani. You're pitching, you're batting. You've done 7 of them. She's 1 for 1. Big deal. But look, the other thing he told me today is he doesn't feel safe.
He's Ohtani, and JD's shagging flies. A lot of.
So I don't know what you think. Now I'm not a big Kellyanne Conway fan. You know, her husband works for the Lincoln Project, and he hates Donald Trump. He's one of those rhino Republicans, and he and Billy Crystal, all those guys that we all thought were these wonderful conservatives, turned out to be nothing but neocons up there with, you know, the Cheneys and all them. What's funny now, Liz Cheney's actually going around campaigning for all the liberals. She was such a poser. She served on the January 6th committee as the Republican conservative. Yeah, right. She lynched her own people, her own constituents. If Trump gets in, I hope and pray that these folks, now it's okay to change your mind. It's okay, because J.D. Vance used to hate Trump. Now he supports him. Elon Musk used to not like Trump, and now he loves him. That's okay. Changing your mind is not a problem. But my concern is that things like the January 6th, where you are persecuting Christians. And I say that to remind you that there is one reporter that was boots on the ground, and they've confiscated all of his tapes, and it was Alex Jones. If you guys go back and remember, Alex Jones was at the January 6th. He was leading the march after the rally to the Capitol, but he had his crew there. They have evidence of Black Lives Matter and Antifa buses pulling up to the Capitol. They were allowed through security, and they were getting out and putting on Trump paraphernalia, and those videos have been withheld. He is now been, you know, they've taken his whole Alex Jones InfoWars, and it's been liquidated because he did something stupid about the Sandy Crook. He shouldn't have gone on and on calling that a fake thing, because you know, the parents now have gotten an emotional victory, and now he's ruined financially. So as they're going after his cameras and his props and his studios, and they pretty much shut him down, he still has a platform on X. He's able to just take your normal iPhone, and he's still braining the heat. Even though they've confiscated some of his stuff. The reason is, I would like truth. I want to know, if they be honest, the Diddy tapes, the Epstein tapes, the January 6 tapes, the JFK assassination. I personally want transparency. I would love to see that. And we'll see what happens. We're getting near the finishing of the second hour. We'll be starting the 5 o'clock hour. And as we get ready for that, I thought I'll play you one of my favorite songs here as we head to the break. It's a good one.
They're talking about taking our rights away in the heartland where the Eagles play. You can't replace a man with a worn-out hat, or the steel in his hands, or the boot on his mat. Sweat on fields in the morning light, and I'd rather fight than lose that sight. Silver screen costume men with their tails, but I've lived the dirt roads and the hard-packed trails. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I'll stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong. The dreams in a factory town, telling us to lay our rifles down. But a country boy's grit, it just won't break, for the roots run deep in the lands we stake. I heard Grandpa's stories about the war and the farm. His legacy beats in the stubborn arm. No suit or decree can take his flame. As long as I breathe, I'll carry his name. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I'll stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I'll stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong. This is my country, this is my fight. From dawn till the dusk, I stand for what's right. Hard work in our veins, pride in our song. We'll hold our ground, it's where we belong. It's where we belong.
It's a war the Russians tried repeatedly to settle on terms that were very, very beneficial to Ukraine and us. The major thing they wanted was for us to keep NATO out of the Ukraine. The big military contractors want to add new countries to NATO all the time. Why? Because then that country has to conform its military purchases to NATO weapon specifications, which means certain companies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Lockheed, get a trapped market. In March of 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for almost every homeless person in this country. We then committed another $24 billion since then, 2 months ago, and now President Biden is asking for another $60 billion. But the big, big expenses are going to come after the war, when we have to rebuild all the things that we destroyed. Mitch McConnell was asked, can we really afford to spend $113 billion to Ukraine? He said, don't worry, it's not really going to Ukraine.
It's going to American defense manufacturers.
So he just admitted it's a money laundering scheme. And who do you think owns every one of those companies? BlackRock. So Tim Scott, during the Republican debate, said, don't worry, it's not a gift to Ukraine, it's a loan. So raise your hand if you think that that loan's ever getting paid back. Yeah, of course it's not. So why do they call it a loan? Because if they call it a loan, they can impose loan conditions. And what are the loan conditions that we impose on? Number one, an extreme austerity program, so that if you're poor in Ukraine, you're going to be poor forever. Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale to multinational corporations, including all of its agricultural land, the biggest single asset in Europe. In Ukraine, there's been 1,000 years of war. fought over that land. It's the richest farmland in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe. 500,000 kids almost, Ukrainian kids, have died to keep that land as part of Ukraine. They almost certainly didn't know about this loan condition. They've already sold 30% of it. The buyers were DuPont, Cargill, and Monsanto. Who do you think owns all of those companies? Yeah, BlackRock. And then in December, President Biden gave out the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And who do you think got that contract? BlackRock. So they're doing this right in front of us. They don't even care that we know anymore, because they know that they can get away with it. And how do they know that? Because they have a strategy. And that strategy is an old strategy, which is they keep us at war with each other. They keep us hating on each other. They keep the Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, and black against white, and all these divisions that they sow. If you like this video.
So that is Kennedy. I hope you could understand him. But he's basically saying how this this situation is the war with Ukraine. As I've told you, this is nothing but propaganda war. And Mitch McConnell even said the money really isn't going to the Ukraine. It's going to the military complex. Well, who owns the military complex? BlackRock. And he went on to talk about, you know, and that's where Dick Cheney and them may have made their money over the years, a lot of senators, by being involved with the military complex. And these neocons want this kind of war because it helps them. And BlackRock and them went out into the Ukraine, and they're buying land because when it's war-torn and when it's supposedly been destroyed, well, the people living there can't afford to replace it. So what happens? The government lets other people come in and say, I'll replace it, but I want to own the land. And the Ukraine can feed the world. They have enough grain. They used to could feed the world. And the 30% of their land now has been gone. Their farmland has been sold off. And he's talking about who bought the land. Well, DuPont and some of these others have been buying out the land. And it's Cargill, DuPont, and Monsanto. So as these folks are buying up the land under the guise of BlackRock, that's why I've told you before, the Ukraine's nothing but a scam. Nothing but a scam. If you go look and track, if you will, these elite politicians, especially Nancy Pelosi's son, Paul Jr., had a cushy job at an energy company in the Ukraine. Mitt Romney, the Republican, his kids have cushy jobs in the Ukraine. It's not just Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's just the idiot. He gets all the attention because he's a drug addict, and he hangs out with prostitutes, that are very sloppy, if you will. The other kids are probably cleaner about their issues. John Kerry, who married into the Heinz family, his wife is loaded, and his stepson in the Heinz family in the Ukraine. A lot of these folks, that's why you see them wanting to give money to the Ukraine. It's not helping the Ukrainian people, but the real transparent issue is that we had a catastrophe here in Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia primarily, but 6 states were affected, and FEMA was not immediately called. The 82nd Airborne out of Fort Bragg, who, when Katrina hit, they were there in hours. It's taken days before military has responded to any of this. Some feel it's because they want the people to abandon their land, because once people abandon their land, or it's declared a federal disaster, then it's open for purchase. Savvy? And guess what we're finding out in North Carolina? Especially the lands that were hit the most have high levels of lithium. Now, reported, I said this in an earlier hour. The people voted against mines, and they voted against, people being able to mine the lithium because they didn't want their communities uprooted. So because the people used their democratic right and voted no, all of a sudden a mysterious storm comes and takes them out. And before you say that, you're just nothing but a conspiracy theory. I want you to go study HAARP, H-A-R-R-P, HAARP, H-A-R-R-P. It's a federal agency that modifies weather. I'm not saying it necessarily creates a hurricane, but they can steer it. Okay? It's something for you to look into. Think about it, pray about it, and see what you think. But anyway, moving on. Elon Musk, RFK Jr., blasts John Kerry, who complained about the First Amendment. And he said the First Amendment stands as a major roadblock for the future. And you got to ask yourself, former Senator and Secretary of State Kerry, whose roadblock are you talking about, sir? See, the First Amendment stands as a major roadblock to stamping out disinformation in the United States, according to Kerry. And he wants a minister of truth type. If you read Orwell's 1984 book, there was a thing called the Ministry of Truth that basically monitored if you didn't go along with the agenda, you were reprimanded. How many of you out there have heard of a thing called Facebook jail or being deplatformed when you don't go along with the narrative? For instance, there is a video out that shows where both of the the people that tried to assassinate Trump, both of the gunmen, were in BlackRock commercials. If you post that on Facebook, I just got a flag again today that a fact checker has said that's, and I said I try to be nice. I say I politely request that the fact checker refact himself, check, because it is a fact. Both of them were in commercials for BlackRock. It's irrefutable. Just because you're a fact checker, that's like me saying, okay, I did a fact check and the moon is no longer exist. Well, we all know the moon. Tonight you'll see the moon. No. I've decided the moon does not exist. I am an official Facebook fact checker, and if you say the moon exists, I will suspend your account. But, sir, tonight you'll see. I don't want to hear what you say. See, no freedom of speech. It's me and mine. Now, think about this. How many times have you seen the liberal children, if you will, at the college campuses? They're taught to shout down conservatives, blow whistles, blow horns. Why? Because they're teaching them don't listen. Don't listen. Only speak. If you teach kids not to listen and only speak, your education is pretty much stumped. So that's the thing. If you go look at liberals, they blow their temper real quick. If you go against their narrative or against their beliefs, they stomp off, they get angry, they don't know how to sit calmly and talk about their beliefs. Most conservatives will sit there patiently and let them spew, and then they say, listen, I want equal time here. They don't want to give equal time. Look at the news media. Dana Bash is the worst. She cuts off conservatives, and I loved how J.D. Vance owned her in that interview. You got to go watch that. Well, he said, he goes, listen, are you going to let me answer, or are you going to angrily interrupt every time I try to give an answer? You can't just ask me a question and not let me answer it, and then you interrupt and keep on. The Marine in him comes out, and I think it's going to come out tonight in the VP debate. It's me. But anyway, speaking to the World Economic Forum of green energy, Kerry said if Democrats can win in 2024 election, the party can change the First Amendment to fight what he labeled disinformation. Basically, he's threatening that they're going to silence us. They're already trying. Look what they've done to the owner of Telegraph. Now, Telegraph was the one social media site that you could literally have free speech on. Now, that's good or bad, whether you agreed or not, they let everyone air out what they believed. That's why a lot of the Q people went to Telegraph, because they could do their Q stuff without feeling hindered. Facebook and X, or formerly Twitter, would always ban them or shadow ban them. Well, with that said, now that guy got arrested. And then you have Elon Musk with all these threats because he purposely said, I support free speech. So Kerry brings that to the table. So it'll be interesting that he said that. Now, John Kerry is saying he wants to violate the Constitution. And John Kerry says if people only go to one source, and the source they go to is sick, and has an agenda, and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to able to that side, as you know, hammer it out of existence. Basically, he's saying, if you don't agree with us, we're going to hammer you out of existence. So thank you, Elon Musk and Kennedy, for standing up to him. Two very influential Democrats telling another Democrat, you're out of line. After giving $175 billion in aid to the Ukraine, Joe Biden tells Americans they need to donate. A lot of people have a problem with this, especially since we've already given $175 billion to Ukraine. He's already pledged $8 billion more if Kamala's reelected. When do we start giving some of that money to Americans? It's our taxpayer funds, right? Well, there's a big concern here, and some people are thinking that this is going to be the thing that involves a lot of maybe outside influences. The Democrats have already said they're looking for 9 million overseas ballots to help swing the election. When gov.org did a search, only 2.4 million outside of America are registered legal to vote. So where are they getting this other? They said they want 9 million, only 2.4, and that's mainly military. But you have missionaries and others abroad. So how are they coming up with 9 million? I don't know, but there's a lot of discrepancies here. But here's a brief breakdown of, if you want to call it, of what they're spending. Military Act, the bulk of the aid has been in the form of military support to the Ukraine, which has been crucial for Ukraine defense against Russian forces, is what they're saying. Financial aid. While the exact financial aid amount varies slightly depending on the source, there has been mentions of around $33.3 billion in budget support and over $10 billion to special supports to Zelensky himself. Contextual comparison. Critics and supporters alike have noted that this aid, while significant, represents a relatively small percentage of the U.S. annual budget, the GDP. For instance, one comparison highlighted that the aid to Ukraine constitutes about 0.25% of the U.S. GDP for the year, and it was measured. Okay, that's one of their excuses, that they're percentage-wise. Well, here's the deal. You know, if you own a business in the Ukraine, you get a stimulus check from America. Did you know that? A lot of folks, as they're finding out, we also fund all their firemen and their relief workers. We pay their salaries. So you're going, okay, there's one thing to help, but this continual helping. And I think two things that really bothered most Americans when it came out was the FTX scandal. When the guy down in Bahamas, you remember that kid, the pajama boy, in the midterm elections of 2022, billions of dollars went missing. Do you remember that? But Jesse Waters has a great program. You should go watch it. He tracks the funds. They go from America to the Ukraine, and then billions of dollars go to the Bahamas. Why? I thought they're at war. Why are they sending billions of dollars to invest, and then it comes back to America? And at the day of the midterms, it's split among all these ghost accounts in America, Republican and Democrats. And then, poof, they said they couldn't trace it anymore. Seriously? The other questionable thing is that Zelensky's wife went on a $2 million Christmas spree 2 years ago. How in the world was she able to go to Europe and spend $2 million? This is all fact checks. Please go check it for yourself. The Biden-Harris administration used FEMA disaster funding for illegal immigrants, and this is something that has some people concerned. The Biden administration, this is in the Federalist, you can go read for yourself. The Biden-Harris administration took more than $1 billion tax dollars that had been allocated to agencies responsible for American disaster relief and used it to offer services for illegal immigrants, aka non-citizens. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, known as FEMA, allocated nearly $364 million in the fiscal year of 2023 and $650 million this year of 2024 so far to the Shelter and Service Program to provide humanitarian services to non-citizen migrants following their release from the Department of Homeland Security. They're using federal tax dollars for non-citizens. And then when a problem such as this flooding hits, FEMA was very slow to respond, and so was the military. It's got a lot of folks asking a lot of questions. The program is run in cooperation with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So the anonymous X account highlighted that the program, after MSNBC pundit Michael Steele sought to portray former presidential Donald Trump as the commander-in-chief who denied Americans full relief in catastrophic weather events, that's when they came out and said, oh, that's not true. It's called the Shelter Service Program. And he goes on, they proved how Donald Trump took care of American citizens. And anyway, go to the article. It's at the Federal. It's a lot of details, facts. I can't read for you right now. It'd take too long. But the problem is Harris and Biden have spent a lot of money for the Ukraine and a lot of money on illegal aliens and very little on American citizens. That's just a fact, Jack. So I don't know what you guys think about this, the hurricane situation. Axios has an article that says, Helene leaves unimaginable destruction in 6 states with death toll above 150. And so there's a lot of folks still to be counted. I talked to a TBC missionary yesterday, and he told me they're just trying to find the living. And when they come across dead bodies in cars and other places, he said even some tried to climb trees to avoid the drowning, but they still were raked into flood, and they were killed. He goes, we don't have time to deal with the dead. We're just trying to find the living, and we'll go back and pick up the dead. He goes, these numbers will be in the thousands. It's sad, very sad. But you can go back and check Axios if you want to, and it says the big picture officials confirmed at least 40 deaths in North Carolina Tuesday that raised the death count in Georgia from 17 to 25 Monday, bringing the number of storm-related deaths to more than 150, according to the Associated Press. So it's continuing to rise, and Axios, it's not a conservative site, but I like to listen to what they have to say to see. But anyway, the hurricane deaths are something for us to consider, and it's something that you and I have to pray about, because there's going to be a time, probably in the near future, you might see a displaced family in your community. They're going to have to, just like when they did Katrina, they may have to bring families and relocate them around America because their cities are gone. They're gone. And if you don't have family, that's the sad thing, because the family units move around so much. And with the family unit not being what it was, the biblical model of family, you have a lot of folks that don't have a mom and dad to lean on, or aunts and uncles, cousins, because they've not been taught to have those nurturing family units anymore. When it hits, and see, the reason I know this, I go downtown, and when we give out resources to a lot of the homeless people, they're folks that don't have anybody. Their family structure, it's just not there. So when you have a tough time, you lose your home or your apartment, you have nowhere to go except the streets. It's going to be interesting the next few weeks and see how this all plays out. A Virginia teacher who makes kids criticize Israel is the daughter of an imam. And you can go to Daily Wire and read this. But a lot of parents are upset. An Arlington, Virginia public school teacher who made students criticize Israel is the daughter of an imam, which is Muslim if you don't know that, who served at a mosque where 9/11 hijackers worshipped. Shaman I-Hatuti, who teaches English at Washington Liberty High School, is the daughter of Sheikh Muhammad Ali Halati from 1995 to 1999. So her father served as an imam at the mosque in Falls Church. The mosque has ties to a number of the al-Qaeda terrorists, including 2 of the 9/11 hijackers. In teaching the students to hate Israel and hate Jehovah God, and to embrace Muslim thought, as much as I don't like this is what we would do if we were Christians. We would teach them to love our God And my fear is that Christians will say, see, there's a reason why we should just not force religion on anybody. And that's not the case. I just don't think so. But I would definitely pull my kid from that classroom. I would not allow her to have the influence that she's been allowed to have. That's not good. Well, the thing I would like to talk about, this upcoming this strike is having a huge input, and I think a lot of folks are finding out more and more. This is Straight Arrow News.
Some of the busiest ports in the country could be shut down come Tuesday as dock workers up and down the U.S. Atlantic and Gulf Coast prepare to strike. A shutdown could cause shortages and potentially price increases throughout the country, right as the holiday shopping season gears up. The International Longshoremen's Association is calling for significantly higher wages and a total ban on automation. If they cannot come to an agreement with the United States Maritime Alliance by the end of Monday, some 85,000 workers are prepared to walk off the job. An automation ban would impact cranes, gates, and container moving trucks that are used in the loading or unloading of freight at 36 ports. Those ports handle about half of all U.S. cargo from ships. The ILA and the Maritime Alliance last held negotiations in June, but nothing was accomplished then or has been since.
Now I have my Georgia Bulldog reporter has pulled this. This is from the Independent, and the guy that's running the union says, "I will cripple you." I repeat, he says, "I will cripple you." Here is what he had to say to the owners of the docks, and this makes sense. This is going to be, it might make you angry, but try to look at it from his perspective is all I'm saying.
From Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, "I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you." Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the companies money to pay their salaries while they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
I'll cripple you. He said, "I'll cripple you." He's the leader of the docks of that union. Now, USA Today gave us what they predict will be the biggest things to go first. Which products could be affected by the lengthy port strike? Alcohol, bananas, and seafood, to name a few. Interesting, is it not? The consumers may soon notice it's harder to find products like bananas, electronics, and booze, if you will. Dock workers. Now, I'm not a drinker, so the booze doesn't bother me. I like bananas, so that will bother me. And electronics. Well, I just got a new phone, so I'm good. But those of you that are looking to upgrade your phones, you better do it soon. That's all I'm going to say. As of Tuesday, 36 East Coast ports have shut down 45,000 union workers. So 36 of the East Coast ports have shut down. 36 ports, 45,000 union workers. They walked off the job, and after labor negotiations stalled between the International Longshoremen Association, the United States Maritime Alliance, and the first ILA strike since 1977 could become one of the greatest supply chain disruptions since COVID-19. And if you guys remember, COVID-19, there were literally ships out in the ocean in the harbor they couldn't unload because of COVID. What more, the strike projected to not only cost the economy up to $5 billion a day. Now, some are estimating 3.8 to 4.5 billion, but others are saying it could be up to $5 billion a day. Interesting. But it may prove devastating to both small and medium-sized businesses, just like COVID. It'll be the small and medium-sized businesses that can't carry large inventories because they don't have the ability, because of turnover and investments, it's going to cost them. And so what'll happen, and I got a good friend, Cindy Fain, who kept her downtown cookie dough. Now, if you're ever downtown on I think it's Market Street, 100 Market Street, right there near the aquarium. Go get a dessert there. Strong patriots, Cindy and her husband, good guys. But they had to get to where only the family ran. They had to let all their employees go. And they hung on by the hair of their chinny chin chin. And a lot of us gave them business. And when you find people like Cindy Fain and Lemon, her husband, out there, if you don't have friend base, now what's got them so many friend bases? Because they've both ran for office. Even though they didn't win, they've stuck their neck out on political issues. So therefore, we want to stick our neck out for them. Plus, Cindy's a strong leader in Moms for Liberty. But my point saying is, this is the kind of, we're about to go back to that kind of thing where small businesses are going to pay a price. So I encourage you during this time, even if they have to raise their prices, don't be such a penny pinch that you're saying, hey, I'm going to Hardee's. Go to the mom and pop restaurants. Go to the mom and pop shops. Buy their products. Be kind. Be generous. And keep them open, because you'll regret the day you let them shut down. You do not want to see empty businesses. It will come back to haunt you in the long run. It's better to support them. That's just my word. That's just my advice, if you will. But in closing here on this topic, this was Fox Business, and the port workers got evidently looks like a violent strike. I guess not everybody wants to be on strike, but there was some violence at the Baltimore port.
We start the top of the hour this morning with a Fox 5 News alert. Thousands of dock workers are on strike, causing ports across the U.S. to close.
Yeah, in total, 36 ports shutting down, including the port of Baltimore. Melanie Allenwick is there right now live, and she appears to be telling us since this morning that it's been heating up there, and it hasn't been a pleasant sight for many folks, especially the drivers coming in.
That's right. So for some people, I think it might have been a bit of a surprise. However, this has been in the news that it could be happening for a few weeks now. So you can see the picket lines behind me here. And this is the main entrance to the Port of Baltimore, the Dundalk Terminal. And you'll see they're walking around the picket lines in circles. Now, Baltimore police were here earlier reminding the picketers that they cannot block the entrance to the port. The longshoremen walked off the job at 12:01 a.m. There was confusion and anger as picketers initially tried to stop trucks from entering, and it did turn violent.
I come here for 7 years. I pull the trash and the debris out of here for the Port of Baltimore, and the officer told me to come back and go in there to get out of my way, and they attacked me and broke the windshield and lacerated my face.
And there's blood dripping, so he was beaten. Very sad. I'll be back right after this news brief.
We're going to begin with that longshoreman strike that could cost the U.S. economy tens of billions of dollars per week. More than a dozen major ports up and down the East Coast, including right here in our area, are all shuttered with no one to unload the cargo.
We have team coverage to break down the dock workers' demands, plus how you could feel the impact of the strike. We begin, though, with New Jersey reporter Anthony Johnson. He's live in Elizabeth. Anthony.
Yeah, the strike is on. The workers are out here. They are fired up, and as you can hear, one of the trucks just driving by, blaring the horns at this hour. We've heard that quite often already this morning. This strike began at 12:01 this morning, and we can tell you that many of these workers that are out here today at several locations in the port, they are fired up. No contract, no work. The ports from Maine to Texas have been shut down as 47,000 longshoremen are now on strike. They are full of energy, demanding a fair contract and fighting against automation at the ports. The walkout took place even after some progress was reported in the talks between the Longshoremen's Union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance. But it was not enough. The workers with the ILA are demanding a 70% hike over the length of the contract. The last reported increase proposal from the company was 40%, but there has been some movement by both sides on those numbers. The normally busy port is quiet outside of the workers chanting and the truckers driving by leaning on their horns to show their support. The union president says the longshoremen are here for the long haul.
If we have to be out here a month or 2 months, this world will collapse. Don't blame them. Don't blame me. Blame them.
This could, of course, have a tremendous impact on the entire U.S. economy. Now, the last time the ILA had a walkout was back in 1977. All these workers tell me they were here and they worked through the pandemic, and the shippers were making billions of dollars. They say they're standing out here on this line because they want to be able to feed their families with a fair contract. That is the latest line from Elizabeth, New Jersey. Anthony Johnson, Channel 7.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Major new allegations today of sexual assault and exploitation by Combs. For the first time, we are hearing about victims who say they were minors when they were allegedly assaulted by the music star. The youngest allegedly just 9 years old. The allegations were revealed today by attorneys representing more than 100 alleged victims who are preparing to sue. So let's bring in NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas right now. So Chloe, we know there is currently a press conference underway. We do have a live picture of that. Can you just walk us through these new allegations and tell us if we've heard from Combs yet?
So the individual that you see on the screen right now, that is an attorney based out of Houston, Texas, and his name is Tony Busby. He's been a part of some very well-known litigation over the years involving a BP oil spill, even involving the Astroworld Music Festival crisis where some individuals were killed during a stampede. So he has made headlines before, but this is pretty shocking. So he claims is claiming right now at this press conference that he has had over 3,000 individuals reach out to his law firm in Houston, Texas, that he and his team have been vetting these claims, that now they are representing over 120 accusers, and that over the next 30 days, they will begin to file different civil suits, that this is not a class action lawsuit, that they are going to continue to vet these allegations, but right now they feel strong about these. So he also said today that it's not just Combs that will be named as a defendant, that there will be other high-profile individuals, some household names. He says, quote, many powerful people, there are many dirty secrets. He says that his team has collected pictures, video, and that the allegations include violent sexual assault or rape, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, dissemination of video recordings, and sexual abuse of minors. So this was something else that they talked about, that there are 25 accusers who were allegedly minors at the time that these allegations took place starting in 1991, span all the way up over 2 decades. He also talks about where these individuals are from. He said that they hail from more than 25 states, New York, California, Florida. We know that Diddy had a residence in Miami, Georgia. We've reached out to Sean Combs' legal team for comment. They have not yet responded. Combs is currently being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn while he is awaiting trial on the New York indictment, where he is charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and prostitution.
So this is a huge story. Diddy, P. Diddy, they're calling him now the Diddler because he was a very strong pedophile, and more and more cases are coming out. People like Justin Bieber, Usher, and others that were under his tutelage are different stories have come out how they were abused. But they have a thing called a freak off and sex trafficking, and 60 Minutes actually covered some of this. Just a little bit of 60 Minutes and see what you think. If you have children in the car, you might turn the channel.
Home, a New York jail cell. The billionaire US rapper is now awaiting trial, accused of serious sex trafficking and racketeering crimes. The federal indictment against Combs reveals graphic details of so-called freak-offs, brutal sex parties he organised and hosted that allegedly left multiple victims severely battered and bruised. Earlier this year, we reported the raids on his mansions that led to the music mogul's current charges. It now seems as if, back then, investigators found much more than they thought they would. For decades, an invite to one of Sean Diddy Combs' infamous parties was a ticket to rub shoulders with Hollywood's elite. The likes of the Kardashians, Jay-Z and Leonardo DiCaprio basked in the music mogul's wealth and power. These days, though, A-listers are distancing themselves from Combs and the horrific claims of what really went on after those parties behind closed doors.
You won't hear about my party. They're going to be shutting them down. They're going to probably be arresting me.
Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel.
12 days ago, federal agents marched Combs out of a Manhattan hotel in handcuffs. Years of rumour were finally legitimised in a grand jury indictment accusing the music heavyweight of sex trafficking would have enough evidence to arrest him.
It was very clear that a lot of the information that they got was from digital evidence that was taken from the raid.
A lot of the stuff we're reading in this pretty heinous indictment could be on video as proof.
I feel a good 80 to 90% of what we see in the indictment is from video evidence, because it takes time. It takes months to go through that evidence to.
Would that not be a weird job? You have to watch basically porn of all these celebrities, and a lot of high-listed ones, J-Lo, the Kardashians, they list a lot, but there's also politicians, and I won't mention their names because let's give them all the innocent till proven guilty. But what looks like is going to happen is it's about to go down. And Hillary Clinton issued a statement 2 days ago saying that she's afraid for Kamala Harris, that she will be brought into a scandal right before the election. And those weren't her exact words, but you can go to the Gateway Pundit and others and read it. But Hillary sounded panicky. And, of course, she's no secret to sexual slander. Her and her husband, Bill, from the Pizzagate allegations to Bill's multiple ladies. Not to mention when they raided Epstein's office in New York, don't forget it was Bill Clinton. He had a huge portrait above his doorway from his desk. He would see every day Bill Clinton in the blue dress, the Monica Lewinsky dress, the intern he kind of had the bow chicka bow bow with. Bill Clinton in a blue dress with red-heeled women's shoes. That's hard. If you've seen the portrait, it's hard not to see it at the moment as I mention it. But she's saying there's so much digital evidence and it's implicating so many people that a lot of A-listers are lawyering up. But what's interesting, Pink, Usher, a lot of them have deleted their Twitter accounts. And Pink, over 7,000 tweets were deleted. But Elon Musk went on the record and said Twitter, now known as X, has become a crime scene. He's got all the masters. You can delete it off, and that's where you got to be careful. And when you put something on the internet, just understand somebody can always bring it back. And what was kind of weird was some of the things that they got in the raid. Here's some things that were mentioned. See what you think. Hang on just a sec.
Let's talk about timeshare maintenance.
No, not that one. Sorry, pal. Don't want to talk about your timeshare.
Women.
It's P. Diddy.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
This is P. Diddy saying that you need oil, women, and locks on the doors. He's on the Conan O'Brien show. Listen again. This is P. Diddy, known as now the Diddler.
Women.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but
yeah.
Superstar rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs publicly joked about locking women in his house at parties he hosted, according to resurfaced interviews from 2002. In an interview on Late Night with Conan O'Brien back in 2002, Diddy, then well known for his partying, was asked for his best hosting tips. The rapper recently pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering and sex trafficking and was ordered to remain in custody while awaiting trial. Combs, 54, was arrested by federal agents in New York following criminal indictment.
Now, you've heard about the indictment. Here is a little bit, I'm going to skip ahead of Usher being asked about his involvement with, because at age 13, he went to a Diddy puff camp. And then it's coming out that possibly Usher was molested by Diddy. And then Diddy brought, once he was famous, he brought Justin Bieber, who was at that time 13, 14. He got molested. Listen to Usher.
In a resurfaced interview, Usher also spoke about living with Diddy during his teenage years.
Is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
See? You're a dad now. Would you send your kid to a pit? And he said, oh, blank, no. Why? Because he knows what happens there. And we're finding out, they're naming names like Steve Harvey, several of the black comedian entertainers, that they committed homosexual acts at the demand of P. Diddy to then advance their careers. Now, Cat Williams, you want to go catch, it's one of the most watched interviews. He was on Shay Shay podcast. It's almost broke the internet. The only thing larger is the Trump and Elon interview. But they're the two biggest right now interviews pretty much on the internet. But Cat Williams names names, and he predicted this back in January. He said Diddy's going down. He named Oprah. He named a lot of people. He called them gatekeepers. He mentioned Jay-Z, Beyonce, etc. So it's just going to be interesting. Everyone needs to have their day in court, but I just thought I'd mention to you that you might keep in mind that this kind of stuff is coming to the forefront all here right before the election. And on that, WikiLeaks. You remember when WikiLeaks was the big issue right before a presidential election? And, of course, Hillary thought it played a role back in 2016. But here now is Julian Assange breaking his silence, pretty much saying he was forced to plead guilty to get out of jail.
After years of incarceration, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange made his first public appearance, breaking his silence, saying he pleaded guilty to journalism to secure his freedom.
I want to be totally clear. I am not free today because the system worked. I am free today after years of incarceration because I pled guilty to journalism. I pled guilty to seeking information from a source. I pled guilty to obtaining information from a source. and I pled guilty to informing the public what that information was.
In 2010, WikiLeaks published classified U.S. military documents and videos from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, exposing alleged human rights violations, prisoner abuse, and civilian casualties. The publication sparked global controversy, leading to a 14-years-long legal battle for Assange. The case has become a focal point in debates over press freedom, national security, and the limits of investigative journalism. While press freedom advocates celebrated Assange's role, U.S. authorities accused him of recklessness, claiming the leaks endangered lives and compromised national security. Assange pleaded guilty to a single felony charge under the Espionage Act, ending his legal battle in the UK and paving the way for his return to Australia. Assange appeared before European lawmakers, addressing the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which released a report concluding that Assange qualifies as a political prisoner, calling for a British inquiry into potential inhumane treatment during his detention. He provided testimony about the impact of his detention on human rights and his personal well-being. He described his imprisonment as a relentless struggle to stay alive physically and mentally, highlighting the profound toll of isolation. Despite concerns over WikiLeaks' disclosures, the Council's report noted no evidence of actual harm resulted from the leaks, challenging the severity of the charges against Assange. Assange's case ignited a global discourse on press freedom, with Assange arguing, quote, "The fundamental issue is simple. Journalists should not be prosecuted for doing their jobs."
So freedom of speech and freedom of the press, both are being persecuted and questioned in this current day and time. Well, we'd like to end the show talking about something positive. Many of you have heard about the flooding. This is CBN.
Hurricane Helene's devastation in North Carolina is being described as catastrophic.
It's way worse than we expected. We were not preparing for an event like this.
Drone video captures the extent of the devastation in Asheville, where many roads are impassable, isolating residents and complicating rescue efforts.
And complicating rescue efforts led to this story. A father who was trying to get to his daughter's wedding, a 2-hour drive turned into a 30-mile hike. But he was determined. He went in the middle of the night so that he could be at his daughter's wedding. This may bring a tissue, so if you're a tearjerker, get your napkin.
The devastation and debris left behind from floodwaters in Unicoi County. But can you imagine walking, or rather crawling and climbing through all that debris? That's what one dad did in order to get to his daughter's wedding, to walk her down the aisle. News Channel 11's Karen Jenkins has his incredible story.
What was supposed to be a 2-hour drive from South Carolina to Johnson City, Tennessee for his daughter's wedding took David Jones 7 hours by car and another 5.5 hours on foot, all because of flooding from the remnants of Hurricane Helene. After being diverted multiple times on Interstate 26 just outside of Irwin, state troopers told him the rest of the way was impassable. But this dad would not take no for an answer.
I said, you have to understand, my daughter's getting married at 11 o'clock this morning, and I'm going to be there to walk her down the aisle.
Jones, who has run marathons in the past, estimated it was less than 30 miles away, so he decided to walk. Jones found himself in total darkness with only his cell phone light to guide him through mounds of debris.
I'd have to climb 6-7 foot tall piles of debris, of old fences and huge trees and tangled mess.
Certainly precarious. At one point, the trek nearly became deadly when he encountered crews cleaning the road with a backhoe.
I was up to my knees in mud and couldn't move. And he doesn't see me. Of course, his cab is facing the other way most of the time, and he's swinging this thing around, and I'm ducking and really like, this could be it. And a lot of prayer at that point.
Miraculously, Jones says he was able to free himself in time and continue on his way, eventually getting back on Interstate 26, still on foot. To avoid being hit by cars, Jones carried a reflective stake. He made it to his daughter's wedding, and she had no idea what her dad had gone through to be able to walk her down the aisle.
That's so emotionally moving that my dad loves me that much that he would come and go through all of that to get to my wedding.
At the reception, Jones presented a gift to the new couple, his reflective stake.
And just for them to remember to be a protector and a good reflection of each other and a reflection of God.
Powerful. A dad walks 30 miles through the flood worn area, going up 7-foot barriers because he wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle. Pastor, salute to you, sir. That is a touching story. And Unicoi, Irwin, I pastored at First Baptist Irwin, and my heart goes out to them because the hospital's been completely wiped out, destroyed. The love exit's what you call it. It's gone. 26, the Interstate 26 that leads you up to Asheville, parts of it's just gone. And parts of Irwin is destroyed. My wife on the other end of Johnson City is Elizabethton, and it sits at the other part where you go to Boone, North Carolina, and Hampton community, where the Hampton football field, it's gone. The goalpost, everything, the whole football field's gone. The fence, the bleachers, all gone. Can you understand how devastating a flood that did to that community, Hampton? And so McLeodland didn't get it as bad. They came on down to Elizabeth, Tennessee, my wife's hometown. And there's a church doing a lot. If you want to help with boots on the ground, send your money where you want. You can send it to these big organizations, and sometimes they need it, but you understand 20 to 50% that's going to go through administrative costs. Every penny you send to Pleasant Beach Baptist will go straight to the mission. PleasantBeachBaptist.com. It's a church in Elizabeth, Tennessee. My wife grew up in that church, and my parents attend there now. It's a great church, several hundred in worship, and they've got just nice. They're just not wealthy people, but they're givers and they are servers, and their pastor's a dynamic, soul-winning guy. So if you'd like to give online to a church that has boots on the ground, that has flood victims all around them and even in their congregation, go online to PleasantBeach.com, PleasantBeachBaptist.com. Beach like you're going to the beach, PleasantBeachBaptist.com. Be generous. I'm praying for them to get $10,000. Someone could write that right now. But if you could give online to PleasantBeachBaptist.com, help them because they're giving hot meals, supply bags. They're going and helping people just with the devastation, providing lodging and stuff. They're a good church, and so many others are. So just do something. It's just a suggestion and a thought. Well, I thought this was a good story, too, to share with you. The NBA just lost a player. And you're going to say, what happened? Well, he gave up a $17 million contract. And he just said, hey, I'm done. He left $17 million on the table and walked away from the NBA. And you're saying, what in the world happened? He said he got called to preach. Is that not a cool story? Griffin was in his third year of his rookie contract, making an average of $4.276 million a year. The third-year NBA player A.J. Griffin is giving up professional basketball to serve in full-time ministry. Just ahead of the 2024-2025 NBA season, Griffin announced on his YouTube page that he would be stepping away from basketball after reaching an agreement to be waived by the Houston Rockets. I gave up basketball to follow Jesus, Griffin said. I know that it seems like a loss in the world's eyes, but I just want to let you guys know that I'm super excited because I truly get to serve God with my full yes. Letting go of basketball has allowed me to go into full-time ministry and truly serving the Lord with all my heart, with all my time that I can give, Griffin continued. CBS Sports reported that Griffin agreed to a $250,000 buyout with the Rockets as a part of an agreement to let him sit out for a season while he determined whether or not he would continue playing. He was traded to the Rockets from the Atlanta Hawks over the summer. According to the Sport Track, Griffin signed a 4-year, $17.1 million contract with the Hawks in 2022 and averaged $4.276 million a year. His contract is also listed as fully guaranteed, so it remains unclear whether his contract included clauses that allowed payment if he retired. Sports Illustrated announced that Griffin did officially retire. If that is true, Griffin would not qualify for the NBA pension program, which provides monthly payments for players who have to at least 3 years of service. This really has to start off with me giving my life to Christ in 2020, Griffin said in his video. I truly accepted him back then. He found me. I know we say we find God, but he finds us. It was the best decision of my life. Powerful statement, is it not? And he went on to say, Jesus is the only one that can fulfill you. He's the only one that can give you purpose. I feel like the Lord was calling me to let go of basketball and truly just serve him more. Way to go, Griffin. Pastor, salute to you, pal. And I wish you well. I hope he has a great NBA career, and it's going to be interesting to keep track of him maybe in the near future. One of my listeners sent this song. We'll close out with Riding On with Jesus. See what you think, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Out on the open road where the stars shine bright, Donald stands tall in the morning light. Shots rang out, but he's still here today. With Jesus by his side, he won't lose his way. They tried to bring him down, but he's stronger than before, with a heart of steel and a faith that soars. With Jesus and the USA, we keep on riding every day. Through the storms and the trials, we won't lose our way. They can try to take him down, but he won't be swayed. He's fighting for our freedom, come what may. The eagle flies high in the red, white, and blue. Trump keeps fighting for me and you. 2 times they tried, but he stood his ground. With the Lord's own hand, he's still around. Through the fire and the pain, he's standing tall. With a love for this land that won't ever fall. With Jesus and the USA, we keep on riding every day. Through the storms and the trials, we won't lose our way. They can try to take him down, but he won't be swayed. He's fighting for our freedom, come what may. He's a cowboy in the saddle with faith in his soul, walking the path where only the brave will go. Through the danger and the trials, he keeps holding on. With Jesus by his side, he's never alone. With Jesus and the USA, we keep on riding every day. Through the storms and the trials, we won't lose our way. They can try to take him down, but he won't be swayed. He's fighting for our freedom, come what may. So here's to the fight for the red, white, and blue. Donald standing tall and Jesus pulling through. For the land of the free, we'll hold tight to our dreams. With faith in our hearts, we ride with the King. Yeah. Well played. There's a cowboy in the saddle, with faith in his soul, walking the path where only the brave will go. Through the danger and the trials, he keeps holding on. With Jesus by his side, he's he's never alone. What makes